Hello and welcome to the final regular season game between the Manchester Titans and the Coventry Phoenix. We've got an incredibly exciting game here today. Two teams that are vying for the top spot in the Premiership North. If we cast our minds back to the first game of the season, Manchester Titans visited the Coventry Phoenix at their home at Butts Park Arena. And in a very tightly contested game, we had a lot of special teams came into play with the result of that game. And the game finished 9-7 in the favour of the Coventry Phoenix. So they got the early jump on the North standings. And throughout the season, both teams looked strong and improved. And the Coventry Phoenix suffered a tie at the hands of East Kilbride, which made this game, I suppose, as interesting as it is now. The winner of this game will take the Premiership North and earns themselves a visit from the Bristol Aztecs in the first round of the playoffs. And the loser of this game will take a trip down to the London Warriors, last year's national champions. And those two games will take place with the aim of getting to the Britbowl final. So for now, it's just myself in the booth today. I'll be joined by Jonathan Homer shortly. And if we have a look at the Premiership North table standings, we can have a look about how the season has shaped up for the Premiership North so far. So at the top of the table currently, we've got the Manchester Titans, Coventry Phoenix underneath, both of which, as I mentioned before, have secured themselves as the 1 and 2 seeds. Beneath that, we have the East Kilbride Pirates, who've completed their season now with a 4-win, 3-loss and 1 draw record. Beneath them, we've got the Nottingham Caesars, who managed to win a game this year with their first year up in the Premiership, losing the other 4. And down at the bottom of the table, we have the Newcastle Vikings, who unfortunately, due to them being unable to fulfill a fixture against the Manchester Titans earlier this year at Bellevue Stadium, are automatically relegated down into Division 1. So there'll be 2 new teams coming up into the North next year. The Merseyside Nighthawks, who are very familiar with the Premiership over there the past sort of decade. And the Scunthorpe Alphas, a young programme, lots of energy there. It'll be exciting next year to see how that table goes. So very shortly, we're going to have the Manchester Titans are going to come out onto the pitch. But before we get there, we can have a look at the Manchester Titans starters. So we'll start, I think, with the offensive starters. So starting today at quarterback, we have Charlie Martin. He's been the Titans quarterback this year. First season in the playing adult contacts. First season in the Premiership North for Martin. And all in all, a pretty good season. We'll get back to the quarterback conversation in a little while. Offensive line, at left tackle, we have Andy Jones. At left guard, we have Tom Worrell. At centre, we've got Scott Tomlinson. At right guard, Mikey Thompson. And at right tackle, Owen Smith. In the backfield, joining Martin at running back, we've got Hafiz Bisiriu. And the 4 receivers starting out the game today, Brad Temple, Connor Greenhalgh, Sam Penfold, and Manny Eze. If we move on to the defensive starters, on the D-line, we have Nathan Cottrell. We've got Charlie Dixon, GB Stalwart, Cade Makin. And then at linebacker, we've got a very strong trio in Yigi Atur, Don Espina, and Abdul Madugu. And then in the defensive backfield, at cornerback, we've got Josh Balela and James William. And that trio of safeties, Jack Mayfield, Jerome Darko, and Danilo Blackburn. So, strong side for the Manchester Titans today. On that quarterback debate, for those of you who are aware of university football, the 2 quarterbacks playing in the game today, Charlie Martin for the Manchester Titans and George Hatfield for the Coventry Phoenix. They are both quarterbacks on the same university team. So both of these quarterbacks playing today, teammates for the University of Lancashire Rams, or as you may previously know them, the UCLan Rams. They've had a name change. And actually myself, I'm the head coach of the UCLan Rams, so I'm personally invested in watching the success of both of these quarterbacks today. I'll be keeping a keen eye on them and lots of the other UCLan players, mostly on the Manchester Titans team, players like Abdul Madugu and Jerome Darko, but also incoming prospects such as Robin Pyer, defensive lineman for the Coventry Phoenix. So there's a little bit of a dynamic here between the 2 quarterbacks, and whilst obviously they won't actually be playing each other on the pitch, although that would be very interesting to see either one of those guys lining up on defense. We have quite a bit of a quarterback battle here now. Martin so far has been the starter at the Rams, but Hatfield is always nipping away, and Hatfield has a really impressive arm. I'm sure you'll see plenty of examples today when he's attacking downfield to his receivers like Aaron Jones, Jeffrey Ampong. A really impressive arm, and Martin himself, you know, has a high power arm. 2 very different styles of offense, though. The Phoenix. I think we've got the Manchester Titans running out now, led by Gaz Shadwell and by Clement Magaji. Flag bearers waving those blue milk flags. And the starters will run out now. Domi Ipanisa, the sword bearer for the Manchester Titans today. Something that head coach George Foster has brought in this year. sword, representative of a player who's been particularly impressive over a recent period of time. And I'll just give a quick recap on kind of what happened in the last game between these two teams. So wasn't a lot of offense or high-powered offense between the two teams. Both defenses were very impressive. And it was really a battle of special teams and turnovers. So in the last game, Coventry Phoenix ended up having 5 interceptions go against them. And if I remember correctly, I think Charlie Martin ended up throwing a pair of interceptions himself. And there was all of the issues around the long snapping for the Manchester Titans, which resulted in the majority of the points conceded. So both teams will probably be looking to resolve those turnover issues. And as the captains are ready to come out, Manchester Titans captains Alex Lenkowski, the GB specialist, Scott Tomlinson, Jack Mayfield, and Charlie Dixon. And the captains for the Coventry Phoenix, we have, just getting these numbers right, yeah, we've got Nelson Charles Nwofa, one of the mainstay players for the GB adult contact team, 10 GB caps, very, very impressive linebacker and special teams player. We also have James Schofield, formerly of the Hertfordshire University. One of the other captains is Junior Shadipo, also a GB cornerback. And finally, we have Taylor Shortland of Loughborough University and also of GB. So a lot of GB talent on display here. I think just before we're ready to kick off, I'll go through what I believe to be my keys to the game, and then I'll bring in our co-commentator, Jonathan Homer, former head coach of the Manchester Titans. But our keys to the game today, both teams, in my opinion, are in a position where they're going to have to win the quarterback challenge. We previously mentioned the kind of the dynamic between these two quarterbacks, but I believe that whichever quarterback is able to generate the most production, you know, drive the ball down the field, eliminate turnovers, make good decisions, whether that be handing the ball off to the two talented running backs in this game, Bisiriu for the Manchester Titans, and we have Bami Olupona, who is a GB running back himself, number 21 for the Coventry Phoenix, or passing this ball in the short areas of the field. We know that both these quarterbacks will take shots downfield as we have the kickoff. Tamworth Phoenix. Apologies, Tamworth Phoenix. Coventry Phoenix. I'm hoping not to do that very often. Old habits die hard. We had Coventry kick out the back of the end zone. Returner Sam Penfold opted to leave it. We'll come back to my keys to the game shortly. And I'll just bring in our co-commentator, Jonathan Homer. Jonathan, nice of you to join me here. What are your thoughts on this game today?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sam. Long-time listener, first-time caller. First time I've been able to come watch the team in the flesh this year. That's been due to other commitments. People think I'd have been avoiding it, but that's not true. Really excited to see the game. It's a big sign that says don't say or there, and I've said it twice already. Both teams have been, the staple at the top of the Premiership North here for the last few years. Obviously, Edinburgh came in recently, and Newcastle. But really, I think it's an opportunity for one of these teams to kind of restate their claim as the #1 team in the North.
Yeah, and there really wasn't a great deal between the two teams the last time they played. So, as a watcher, as a complete neutral watching here, you can certainly hope for a very exciting game. as the Titans have second and short to begin their drive. A little counter play here. Bisiriu stopped just short there. Brings up a third and short. What will Alex Challen's offensive coordinator for the Titans dial up? And how will Johnny Weeks, defensive coordinator for Coventry, try to combat that? A lot of talent on this Phoenix defense. Nice pass for a first down there. Martin to Penfold. Few yards, just trickling the ball down the field here. And I think that when you play against a Phoenix defense, that's typically what you want to do. You understand that they're going to try and bait you into throwing the ball deep and maybe believing that the defensive coverage they're running is different to what they're actually trying to execute. They're going to try and bait Martin into making a mistake here. Greenhalgh just taking his eyes off the ball there as number 52, Reese Blake, leading tackler for the Coventry Phoenix, as only a second-year linebacker comes in with the pressure on Greenhalgh, thinking about the after the catch there before he secured the ball. Manieze in the flat there. Nice blocking from the receivers and a good gain on second and long to bring up a short third down again for the Titans offense.
Obviously, the first game between the two, as you recapped, was very low scoring, Sam. Be interesting to see if that was because the Titans were rusty, having not played any preseason games, or whether it was just the the Coventry defense matches up well. How do you think the Titans offense is going to do? Because it has been a little bit parades and funerals this season.
Yeah, I think if you kind of take yourself back to the Newcastle away game where the Titans scored, a flurry of points, almost free will, that's a high scoring offense. 66 points on the board is an awful lot against a Premiership defense. But then you have the games, for example, that first game against Coventry, offense sputtered its way through that game. And we also had the East Kilbride game away, which is a really tight game. I would expect to see a more impressive Titans offensive operation in this game, but equally, the Coventry Phoenix defense are no slouches, full of talent. I'll just name some of the standout figures on this defense. So I've already mentioned Charles Nwafo, the 10-capped GB player. But we have Dan Schofield, University of Nottingham safety. You can see him in there in the white helmet, number 41. A young player with abundance of talent. Coming off the edge, we have Dan Shodipo, who is arguably one of the most athletic players that I've ever played against, as the Titans go for this on fourth down and convert. And are still driving. Owen Smith in the pile, driving Bisiriu forwards for a nice gain on fourth and short. End up coming up with a 10-yard gain there.
Lovely Britbowl 36 flashbacks there, Sam, when we pushed the pile, you may recall.
Yeah, and I think that with Nathan Dukes, number 12, in the backfield, you'll probably like to see a bit more of that power running as the Titans go trips to one side and switch Dukes to the opposite. Shodipo showing blitz on the top of your screen. Comes off the edge, picked up, and the pass sails just short. Martin has to step into those throws. 2nd and 10. Just a few more of those impressive Knicks defenders. Junior Shodipo, one of the cornerbacks, number 12. Really, really aggressive cornerback. He is an impressive run defender but will have very, very sticky coverage all day as we see zone coverage here. Risky pass there. Number 44 wasn't picked up for the Phoenix. That's Kurosh Fatemian, Warwick University linebacker coach. 3rd and long here as the Titans lost yardage on the play. This would be a good stop for the Phoenix here. This would, Titans would attempt potentially a field goal from here, but it would be a tricky one for Lenkowski. Let's see if they can gain some yards and make it a bit easier. Just out of the reach of Nathan Jukes. Let's see how the Titans elect to handle this 4th down. Lenkowski is coming onto the pitch. Looks to be, yep, they're going to punt the ball away. Martin, number 16, quarterback, is the holder for the team. He's come off the field, so we expect to see a Lenkowski punt here. However, special teams coordinator Ewan Chisholm potentially could call a fake. Titans are known for their special teams extracurricular. Offside penalty by the looks of things. Titans smartly elect to let the ball bounce down to the 10-yard line. Could be an offside penalty here.
Interesting to see if this brings the Titans into field goal range. I think it will be about 45 yards of field goal, I think, into the wing side. What do you think?
They'll have a lot of confidence in Lenkowski's leg. However, the officials look to be pointing into the Titans' backfield, so it could be... thought it could be illegal formation on the Titans, but Lenkowski seems confident that it's going against the Phoenix. Illegal formation by the looks of things. Yeah, illegal formation against the Manchester Titans. Looks to me like Coventry elect to decline the penalty and they'll start with the ball. They accepted the penalty, tacked 5 yards onto the end, and will start on the 15-yard line as George Hatfield starts out here. Motion Schofield to the bottom of the screen. Short game for Olupona. Sorry, Bami. I will do my best to make sure I get your name correct. Olupona, number 21, at GB running back. Tackled by that familiar face for the Titans, Abdul Madugu. Have 2nd and about 8 yards. Tight formation at the top of the screen. Tight end at the bottom of the screen. And they motion Schofield again. Good gain there. Olupona gives Coventry a 3rd and short.
You haven't mentioned the UConn Rams yet, Sam, with the two quarterbacks being both UConn.
Had a good old chat about that before you got here. Very exciting for me as we get a 3rd down. We see play action from Hatfield, rolls out just behind Schofield. Nice play design, just didn't quite execute. It's going to bring up 4th down, and we're going to get the punt unit.
Maybe not so exciting with passing like that, hey?
Excuse my my co-commentator. I have warned him that this is neutral coverage, but that being said, I imagine he'd be just as critical of Martin if he was to deliver the same kind of pass.
George Hatfield actually was the primary Team North quarterback at the U19's regional series last season, performed very well, especially in the Team North victory over Team Midlands. So shout out to George.
Possibly a timeout here for Coventry, as punter Ross Denton is back to receive. Ross Denton, actually the captain of the GB Aussie Rules team. I was watching him warm up pre-game, and just like Lenkowski, has a very impressive leg. So Coventry will be able to rely on that somewhat. I'm not sure if Denton was around in the first game, but certainly gives you that comfort when you get into the other opponent's half of the field, to be able to get some points on the board with long field goals. We've got a punt formation here again. Denton back. Good snap. Slight rollout on the punt. Penfold should have plenty of time to return this. Manages to get past the first. Down the sideline. Good flyby block by Matty Gaunt, number 28. Opens up a little bit of room there for Penfold. Adds on some good yardage. Starts the Titans in Coventry's half.
Sam Penfold, a real enigma of a football player, I think. You know, we've seen him return the ball 98 yards and drop it on the 2. We've seen him make unbelievable plays. But then he also does lay himself down by he makes the great plays, maybe not simple plays sometimes, would you say?
I think in years gone by, that is absolutely sort of indicative of the type of experience that Penfold has had at receiver. But this year, him and Greenhalgh have really taken a step up, and as Martin rolls out to his right and steps out perhaps for a yard loss, we've seen a sort of maturation of Penfold and Greenhalgh with receivers like Adam Bamber and Max Gracie-Ainscough out of the equation. These young players with perhaps a bit less experience have had the opportunity to flourish a bit more, and we've really seen an uptick in their receptions, in their productivity. So yeah, Penfold really has always had the the physical skills and attributes. This year, I think we've seen from him and Greenhalgh a really impressive turnaround with, I suppose, just the mental side of the game. We have a 2nd and 10. Coventry with 3 defensive line down. So we've got a freeze play from the Titans. Inside run, stuffed pretty early. Looked like initially Lee Dean, a first-year defensive lineman, was there to knock the Titans back. Gives the Titans a 3rd and 8. Got trips to the top of your screen. Single receiver Mani Eze as they motion Penfold down into the box as an up back. Play action from Martin. Doesn't see Dan Shadipo in the backfield there. Runs straight into him for a sack. And we'll see Lenkowski and the punt unit come out here to try and pin the Phoenix back deep.
Interesting, the Titans alternating between going for it and electing to punt inside the Coventry half. So when you and I were part of the team, we would always, if we weren't in field goal range, but we were in the other team's half, that was an auto go for it situation. How do you think the Titans are approaching this culturally now?
Yeah, I think perhaps momentum has something to do with it. They caught Shadipo offside there. Shouldn't make a huge difference. I think the Titans would be relatively happy with that punt on the 9-yard line. see what they elect to do here. Can't imagine they'd be aggressive and now go for it on 4th down, as you mentioned. But it could be a momentum type thing. Titans drove the ball early, felt perhaps good about the way they were moving the ball and decided to ride that momentum. Whereas the previous 4th down, perhaps a little bit less momentum. Coventry maybe stalling the Titans a bit more than they were comfortable with, and George Foster, head coach of the Titans, and Ewan Chisholm, the special teams coordinator, thought play it safe here. So Titans pin Phoenix back on their 9-yard line, and the defense comes out. Hatfield has handed the ball off twice to Olapuna for good yardage, and had that unfortunate throw behind Schofield on the 3rd and short. Let's see how they come out here. Again, pinned back. One of the keys to the game, which I'll discuss shortly, is all about field position. Aaron Jones, the single set receiver, to the top of your screen. Jerome Darko, number 8, showing blitz. And we've got a late bailout. Hatfield goes to Schofield for that pass, and he's tackled early by Danilo. I'm going to attempt this, Danilo. Danilo Szlahetko Blackburn. One of your under-19s graduates, John, I'm going to call you Homer from now on. Yeah, that's strange. Talk to me about some of those under-19s who've come up into the Manchester Titans ranks and how they've impacted the team.
I mean, Danilo was one of the players actually that joined the Titans when he was 14 years old in what was U16 football back then. And, you know, there's a whole cohort of that entire cohort, which includes Danilo, Brian Weaver, Max Gratiensko, Tom Jones. Is the Tamworth breakthrough for a 1st down. Kind of several players from that cohort, I think, really impacted our push from 2017 onwards. I think supplemented the players that came in. But I think if you look through the history of the Titans youth program, you know, you're probably talking of 40 bodies that have come through and made impactful contributions to the Titans senior team.
And as we mention him, we give him the commentator's curse. Szlahetko down with an injury, being treated by the medical staff. Looks a little bit like perhaps a calf or cramp. I hope it's just something small like that, but a really nice run there by Olapuna on a counter. It looked like the Titans defense all flowed one way, and that counter play broke for about a 10 to 12 yard run. I suppose while we've got this time, I'll tell you about one of our sponsors. We have partnered with Pitman Flannel Company, where timeless style meets rugged comfort. From the sidelines to the great outdoors, Pitman's premium flannels keep you warm, sharp, and ready for anything. Built for legends, worn by Titans. As Szlahetko Blackburn walking gingerly off the field here. I'll try and find who his replacement was. I think they might have brought in an extra defensive lineman here to try and combat strong running from Coventry. 1st and 10. Intercepted by James Williams. Now, we do have a penalty flag on the field, but I think that's going to be holding against Olabaju. So if that's the case, the interception will stand. Holding is declined by the Manchester Titans, and the Titans are going to take over They're going to take over on the 31-yard line.
Well, Sam, you mentioned it in your recap of the last game, how vital turnovers were to game one. Maybe this could be the momentum build that the Titans need to get on the scoreboard.
Yeah, Ollie Sweeney, the quarterback for the Phoenix in the first game, ended up throwing 5 interceptions last time. And we've just had our first interception in the first quarter from the Phoenix quarterback, Hatfield. We'll see how Titans respond and see if Phoenix can get a stop here. Shadipo through, slows up Bisiriu, just about enough to almost make that tackle. Got some very interesting afters there between both the teams. Really hotly contested game. Obviously, everybody knows what's on the line here, but also these teams are very familiar with each other. There is a strong rivalry here. Even if some of those stalwart players have moved on, there's still that festering, underlying. What a fantastic catch by Brad Temple on the sideline in single coverage. That shows a lot of confidence from Martin to see single coverage there, put the ball on the back shoulder for Brad Temple. Really impressive. We've got a first down, not quite first and goal, so the Titans can still get a first down by gaining 10 yards here and give themselves 2 big opportunities to score, get some points on the board, and they are well within Lenkowski's field goal range. Got a timeout for, they're asking the photographers to make sure they're outside of the designated area. That is Mark from All Sports Photography. Check him out on social media. Fantastic photographer for the Titans for many years. As we got a 1st and 10 for the Titans offense. Brad Temple in motion, orbital around the back of the quarterback, hands off to Bisiriu, tries to spin out of a tackle, just gets back to the original line of scrimmage. So, Homer, you have been the head coach of the Manchester Titans in the past and prepared for this Coventry Phoenix team many times. Just talk to me about your experience of the Phoenix defense and what that kind of, that culture and that whole mentality is like when you're going into that game against, as we say that now, Bisiriu breaks forward, gains a first down, he's on the half-yard line. Talk to us about that Tamworth, I apologise again, Coventry, Phoenix defense.
I mean, I was always very fortunate that Luke Carlton was ROC, would always put a huge amount of work into preparing for these kind of games, and certainly in terms of scouting offenses, as we have, unfortunately, an injury to, I think it's the Tamworth number 12, Junior Shadipo. Luke would always put a huge amount of work into scouting the defense and what they were going to do, and obviously at the time it was a Jason Scott defense as well, which added additional layers of complexity. I think overall, from a cultural perspective, the years that we played them, particularly in the first 2 years, it was the primary rivalry in the north. That Tamworth team, as it was then, nice save, were very much Britbowl contenders, and I think we overcame them a lot of the time with our overall culture of our desire to win the Britbowl. I think we didn't make the whole season about that game, but we certainly made it clear that the season hinged on those games. And as a result, I think we very much produced our best performances. We beat them 3 out of 4 across those first 2 seasons, all very close games, but we were able to come out on top, and it was just sheer will of mentality. Interesting to see the different approach of head coach there with Junior Shadipo down in that area.
I'll take the microphone here before we go any further. And Shadipo leaving the field again gingerly, but that's not a player that Coventry can afford to lose. Shadipo is not only impactful with his performance, but also with his demeanour and his leadership skills. A very vocal leader for the Phoenix. As we've got 2 in the backfield for Manchester here, I think we've got Nathan Dukes and we've got number 33. Number 33, which is Sam Jones, as a big tackle for a loss there by Nwofa. brings up second and short after a little loss.
Do you think Vizaria was shook up on the last play, interested in taking him out of the game when he's running so well?
It could be that. It could be that the Titans are liking the power running from Dukes here and think that he can pound the ball in from short. But Tamworth, Coventry stand firm. The box of Coventry is, they're no slouches. So here's something that the offensive coordinator Luke Carlton would be very aware of. He'd be extremely aware that Junior Shadipo is off the field. And I wouldn't be surprised if Luke Carlton were to, in his years, were to target the area of the field where Junior Shadipo has now left. Let's see if Challens recognizes that and makes the same. Fantastic catch by Sam Penfold for a touchdown. Martin play actions to Dukes. Quick little spot. Now, in terms of what Martin will have done there, he's going to have done that play action. He'll have a look to see what the inside linebacker on the right-hand side, how he reacts. If that linebacker steps up because of the play action to defend against the run, Martin will know that he has space behind that linebacker to put that ball in. If the linebacker were to stay out and to attempt to cover for the pass, he would likely have handed the ball off. Linebacker stepped down, and Martin, with a really impressive throw on a rope, gets the ball in to Penfold for a touchdown, which Lenkowski then converts to bring us to 6. Whilst we've got a minute here, why don't we revisit my keys to the game? So I mentioned previously that whichever quarterback managed to be most productive would give their team the upper hand. And if we have a look at my other keys to the game, we'll get our keys to the game up on display now, but okay, so Manchester and Coventry need to win the turnover battle, as we mentioned last time, with a high kick. A lineman tries to field it. He does. 73. Is that Taylor? That is Taylor Shortland fielding that kick, and he's letting the Manchester Titans sideline know there was never any worries about me fielding that ball. Even got a few yards on the back of it. That'll be on his highlight reel. Just like Dan Connolly for the Patriots against the Green Bay Packers many years ago. A few less yards for Taylor there, but an impressive take for someone whose shoulder pads are a little bit bigger than the usual skill position players. But if we go back to my keys to the game, these teams have to manage these turnovers. It was a huge impact in the last game. And as we've got a first down for Coventry here, Schofield in motion again, hands off to Olapuna, and he is met in the backfield by a huge number of Titans, including Yigi Atur and including number 97, Cal Cisse, a rookie to the sport this year. One of the Manchester Titans' keys to the game, the final one, or my keys to the game, is to find a way to deal with Nelson Charles Nafour and his teammates on defense. If they can find a way to consistently move the ball. Sidearm action there from George Hatfield. Picks up a couple of yards, but after that first play going for a loss, Coventry are now faced with a 3rd and long. And it looks as though it looks as though Bami Olapuna might be struggling with an ankle or a leg injury here, which is a shame because Coventry rely heavily on that run game, and Olapuna is really the player who gives them that explosive run game. We've got a 3rd and long here. And that could be a delay of game. Didn't quite see the referee's signal there, either a false start or a delay of game. But just before that, we got the final key to the game for Coventry. And ironically, that is to win the field position battle, which so far this game, Coventry's offense has found themselves pinned back in their own red zone quite often, as we've got a 3rd and a mile here. So Titans are going to want to get some pressure, but make sure that they are defending the sticks, defending that 1st down. Pressure from Cade Makin, comes up with a sack. Sack Central by name and more recently by nature.
Interesting that Blackburn's remained off the field since that injury. Obviously a big blow, very experienced, high-quality player.
Yeah, taking his kit off. See him talking to the medical staff down there. So, must have been a knock. He is on his feet. He is walking around, and so I think he's being handed an ice pack. So, whilst he might not see the field again today, hopefully nothing too bad. Same for Junior Shadipo. I'll try and have a look over at the Knicks sideline and see if I can see what the update is with Junior, as that would be frankly a monumental loss early on in the game here, and the loss for Coventry could be a huge gain for Manchester if offensive coordinator Alex Challens recognises this and chooses to attack. The touchdown to Penfold on the slant or the quick pop pass earlier was not against the Coventry player that would typically be Junior Shadipo. He was one of the slot receivers, and Junior Shadipo typically is an outside corner, as we've got a 4th and long. A punt here from Ross Denton. Not the punt that Denton was probably looking for. That little rollout punt. Homer, you've managed special teams at Manchester for many years, and you've worked really closely with Lankowski in creating quite a comprehensive playbook here, which I imagine still has remnants of your fingerprints all over it. Talk to us about what the benefits of a rollout punt compared to a pocket punt.
I mean, I think it very much depends on 2 things. One, your coverage. Also, your coverage and how the other team are rushing, and then if you specifically want to put the ball into a certain scenario. So if you're looking to coffin corner punts, so for example, where the Titans were punting from in the first quarter, you may roll out to give the punter a better angle to get the ball out of bounds inside the 20, inside the 10. As the Titans go deep, overthrown. Alternatively, it may just be simply a shifting of coverage if the defense is rushing a particular side, or if your punter feels more comfortable rolling out behind his wall, then you may do that. Personally, never particularly liked it. I thought it created a risk, either of the wall being blocked back into the punter, or it only takes one person to get through if you're rolling out that way. And certainly I and Lankowski always used to prefer to just stand centrally and punt the ball.
Not only that, I do believe that you lose some of your protection as a kicker, as a punter, when you roll out. As we've got 2nd down here, Greenwalsh in motion. Fake counter as Martin rolls out and hits Penfold up the middle. Tackled there by Nathan Willis. Potentially a touchdown saving tackle if Penfold manages to break one more. Titans feeling this momentum now. And interestingly, after the drive after Shodipo, Junior Shodipo goes out, Titans come out with 2 passes from 2 plays here. Perhaps Challens and Martin have recognised this. Dan Shodipo off the edge, drops back into coverage. Hafiz Bissariu out to the edge, gets the edge. And Junior Shodipo is back on the field, which is great news for the Coventry Phoenix and bad news. As I say that, Shodipo limps off the field. It's completely within Shodipo's character that he will play until he physically cannot move. So I'm not surprised to see him out there trying. And unfortunately, it might be a step too far for him this time if he's picked up this injury today or if it's a lingering thing, but seems to be in some discomfort on the sideline as Bissariu got the edge there but was tackled out of bounds by Shodipo. We now have an officials timeout, I believe. An equipment infraction for number 1, Brad Temple, no knee pads in. From a completely neutral standpoint, free the knee. And we've got a 1st and goal here from the Tamworth, the Coventry 10. I'm going to get messages from Johnny Weeks. I'm going to get messages from Nelly. As Alex Baldry comes in, single receiver down to the bottom, 2 backs, play action to Penfold, who did not manage to keep hold of the pass, looked to initially have done enough to secure the catch, but if he was going down to ground whilst trying to maintain possession of the ball, he has to maintain possession until he is fully down. And unfortunately, when that ball hit the ground, hit the turf, it came out. So that is an incomplete pass. Really nice positioning from that pass from Martin there, though.
Interesting, the Titans are attacking, as we look at it, the right-hand side, which is not the side that Dan Schofield is on, and certainly where Junior would have been. So I think to your point earlier, Alex Challenge has recognised where the threats are on the Coventry defence and where they're not. Expect this to maybe be today, go to the far side again. Ooh.
Nice attempt to Manieze there. Martin under pressure. With the Titans having 2 running backs in the backfield, that forces the defense to have to bring an extra player into the box being the area in close proximity to the Titans offensive line. So the Coventry defensive line and linebackers, that's what you'd consider to be the box. They have to respect the additional player in the box, and so what that does is it puts Eze on an island on his own at the top of your screen. Let's see if they take advantage of that. They do take a shot to Eze, but it's too far. Martin gets hit again. This time, Dan Shodipo seemingly protesting to the officials about something. Shodipo and Owen Smith, that is a battle that runs probably 5 or 6 years deep. There is absolutely no love lost there on both sides. I'll tell you that for sure now, guys. So keep an eye on that matchup at the top of your screen. Number 65 and number 8 for Coventry. Owen Smith for the Titans. So we have a field goal attempt here. Interesting that there's no call there on the holder being contacted, which is quarterback Charlie Martin, who seems to be in some discomfort down on the field now after the successful field goal. Manchester Titans very unhappy about the no call there. Holder does have protection on the field goal. Homer, any more on the kind of protection offered to the holder on field goals?
Well, holders are treated in the same way that the kicker punter is, that when the ball is in their hands and they're holding it, they cannot be hit in the process of the field goal. So any contact to the holder would be an automatic flag. I think especially after the ball has been kicked as well, with the holder on his knee with his back to the player that's rushed. So I'm very surprised to not see a flag. That said, maybe we should watch the replay before we cast judgment.
Yep, as Martin's still down and being seen to by medical staff here. I can see quarterback Josh Mills warming up on the sideline. Josh returning from the GFL this year.
Interesting when Josh returned, and I heard you announce it on this very stream. Did you expect Josh to take over the backfield, or do you think that Charlie had kind of earned his place by then?
It's a conversation I was having with Stan Wilson, the commentator I was with on the day, about the two ways that head coach George Foster and offense coordinator Alex Chalmers could handle it. They could essentially say, look, we've put our faith in Martin. He's not let us down so far this year, really. And, he's gaining in confidence. He was at the time showing the necessary steps to, essentially show that he is a competent and effective Premiership quarterback. Or they could, midway through the season, essentially open up that competition. What they have done, I am not privy to. However, Martin has remained the starter throughout the year, and we'll see if Martin, who got up under his own power and walked off the field, is okay, and will go out on the next drive as we see Lenkowski, I'm calling him Lenkowski now because of you. Lenkowski's kick go out the back of the end zone for a touchback. And whilst we've got this time, I'll just give you a message from another one of our sponsors. We have a new sponsor, the Brotherhood of Pursuits and Pastimes, our favourite sports bar in town. At this bastion of taste and live games, we celebrate the greatest show on earth. The famous victories, the brave defeats, and sometimes even the scrappy draw away from home. But most of all, we celebrate the good spirits, those who play and watch the game with integrity, humility and respect, regardless of odds or outcome. This bar is for them. Thank you to the Brotherhood for supporting the Manchester Titans as the Coventry Phoenix get back on the field offensively. Motion a receiver to the top of your screen. We've got that counter play. And a fantastic play by Abdul Madugu for another tackle for a loss. Jack Mayfield initially on the contact, driving, forcing the Knicks running back Olapona have to make a cut back to the inside, where Madugu flows over and makes that tackle for a loss, which he has honestly made a living on this year.
I think we have been blessed, the Titans, in the last few years, and I'm specifically thinking about Sam Fossey, Alex Eager. If you have a run support safety that can come, particularly from that free safety position, fill the alley as a secondary run defense player, that makes such a difference to your box play.
Coventry goes straight back to the run, and Jerome Darko combining there for a tackle. Jerome Darko spending time with SGS Pride before moving on to the Canadian Junior League last winter, and joining myself at UCLan last winter, and will be there again this year, as we see what Coventry will dial up for this third down. George Hatfield has a fantastic arm, and Aaron Jones is a great receiver. I'd really love to see them take some shots here as we get one. Number 84, short of the first down, but does get the ball. That is Max Ludgate, former Coventry University Jets and Northants Knights player. Down short of the first down. We actually are watching the replay back, myself and Homer, of the Phoenix field goal block. See if we can get a good angle here on... No, we can't quite see the outcome of the play. See if Martin is good to go for the next drive, or whether we'll see Josh Mills. Josh Mills is still throwing the ball with Martin. Martin seems to be in good spirits as we got a punt away to Penfold. He's going to get a good return here, and there is a flag down for either running into the kicker or roughing the kicker. So what that's going to do, if it's a running into the kicker penalty compared to a roughing the kicker penalty, what would we expect to see here, Homer?
I mean, that's a great question, Sam. I didn't realise there was a difference.
Well, a running into the kicker penalty would give us a 5-yard penalty for Coventry. March them forwards into first down when we have a running into the kicker penalty, so it march them forwards. Coventry now back on the field on offense for a first down. We've seen Hatfield get a pass and catch here, so maybe they'll be a little bit buoyed by that and go back to the pass.
One thing I will say, just back to the conversation about punting and Ross Denton, he is doing that roll-up punt, also very much what you would refer to as a soccer ball kick, holds the ball low, takes the ball, drops the ball down to the foot, and I noticed the Titans are generally rushing 9, looking to get the block. If you watch Lankowski, he very much does a more traditional punt style, where he holds the ball high and takes his leg to the ball. So maybe the Titans can get a block later in the game.
Lovely play by Hatfield there. Pump fakes to the outside, drags the outside linebacker out, and then in the space that he's created for Max Ludgate, manages to hit him on a slant. Ludgate goes for a good few yards and puts Coventry, I think, in Manchester half of the field for the first time today as Ludgate motions out wide to the top of the screen. Hatfield drops back to pass, rolls out to his left, fires the ball out to Aaron Jones. Great coverage breakup from Jack Mayfield there. That is going to be a nice matchup all day there. Aaron Jones against anyone really, but Jack Mayfield and Aaron Jones both part of that GB adult contact program at times. Aaron Jones also spending time in Europe with multiple teams. So we'll see if they come back to Aaron Jones. As we've got 2nd and 10. Ludgate in motion. Lovely little hurdle over an arm tackle there. We do have a flag in the middle there. That's typically in the area of holding, as against Olagbaju. Or he is the player who's making the most noise about the holding, should I say, which is not uncommon for the milkman, self-titled milkman. Referees having a discussion here about the hold, about the penalty, which gives Hatfield time to talk to his offensive coordinator, Luke Fern. Bright young mind. I think it's his 2nd year or perhaps even his 3rd year at the helm of the offense for Coventry.
Just as we glance down the sideline here, what a head of hair on Alex Baldry, number 87 for the Titans. That is really world-class flow. I see you've shaved yours off, Shal.
Yeah, Alex Baldry, a devilishly handsome man. My hair fluctuates in its length and its thickness, and we'll just keep it at that. There's no consistency with my appearance, really, as we get a nice gain there. Gets some of the yardage back for the Coventry offense, really relying heavily on Olapuna. Again, in those kind of situations, I'm kind of expecting Coventry to play a little bit less conservatively, you know, when they're 10 points down. I'd like to see Hatfield really air it out. He has a strong arm. You've got great receivers in Schofield, in Aaron Jones. Hatfield drops back, a little screen pass to Olapuna. Nice blocks by the offensive line and receivers out there. Good drive too, not quite enough. Question here, Homer, with Ross Denton, who is the GB captain of the Aussie Rules team, and so does have a leg. 10 points down in the 2nd quarter. Are Coventry wise to go for it here on 4th and a long 4? or should we be kicking points here?
Well, not knowing Ross's range, if this is in range, I'd be kicking the points. You know, you don't want to be sat there with a donut on the board. You want to get it back to a one-score game because anything can happen at any time. So either he doesn't have the range, or they're feeling confident about their play call.
New running back in the backfield. Got Theo Hutchinson-Hayes, first year in the sport. Hatfield pressure, taken down. Number 98, David Annie from Sheffield Hallam. Dark celebration there, perhaps in honour of his former teammate, Alfred Mazengra, a.k.a. Shark. Not sure why I'd be honouring him, but good stop there at the right time for the Titans.
Yeah, lots of celebrations down here on the sideline. Lots of teammates coming up to David, probably asking David, Annie, are you okay? You okay, Annie?
Oh, we've got another half to go. Martin is back out and he's joined by Bisiriu in the backfield. Brad Temple has now got knee pads in, allegedly, as they're taking a shot to Greenhalgh. Could be the angle I've got here. Looked like that ball was in a really good position and Greenhalgh maybe didn't quite see it. I'm not sure. That looked like a fantastic ball from Martin there, but could be the angle. Brings up 2nd and 10.
Yeah, if I was marking the stats, that would be going down the didn't fancy it column for me. I agree, that looked catchable.
Didn't fancy it column. Famously reserved for offensive line, who don't get stats very often. Penfold on an orbital motion. Bisiriu drives forward behind the offensive line on the right-hand side for about a 4-yard gain. Brings up a 3rd and 6.
We mentioned this earlier with the 2-back, but I think even with just the single back, you know, the Titans are regularly picking up 5+ yards here now, which is forcing these one-on-one matchups to the receivers.
Yeah, Titans offense typically has been very much a game plan team. So, you know, terrible for if you wanted to draft someone in fantasy because no player gets consistent points. Just out the reach of Greenhalgh again, and we can hear special teams coordinator Ewan Chisholm calling for a punt. Unfortunate there, as you said, you know, the yardage gained whenever you know, they execute the plays is pretty good. But brings up a 4th down here. James Schofield back as the returner for Coventry. Talented player whose brother plays safety. James and Dan Schofield. Dad Keith Schofield here to watch. Big shout out to Keith. Nice punt.
I mean, if I am being critical, the Titans are with the wind now. I agree. I wouldn't be kicking it to James Schofield either, but I think we could have possibly putting that out of bounds or hanging it up there.
Yeah, Lenkowski walking off the field, clearly unhappy about where the punt ended up. Unsure if it was a pressure issue, a blocking issue, or whether he perhaps didn't quite get the kick he was hoping for.
I think in my time as head coach, when I was also special teams coordinator over the 3 years I worked with Alex, a man that never needed feedback. He was already giving himself feedback as he left the field. Very self-critical, I think.
Yes. As we've got 1st down here, will they allow Hatfield to let the ball fly a little bit? Swallowed up immediately by 4 Manchester Titans defensive linemen. Charlie Dixon in on the tackle, Cal Cisse, Ipanisa, and Fortune. Oh, maybe that's not Fortune. We've got a number change from regular number 95, Michael Osibodu. Very strong defensive line play there. Again, as I mentioned, one of my keys to the game for Coventry was going to be field position, and Coventry are getting no breaks here. Titans regularly forcing them to start within their own 15-yard line. 2nd down here after a loss. Hatfield out to Schofield, nice catch. tackled by James Williams on the sideline with Jerome Darko in support. Gain of about 8, which brings up a 3rd and 6 or 7. Hatfield, we've got the 2-minute warning here. Hatfield, you know, being quite efficient with his passing here, but perhaps these short passes are getting out of his hand quickly due to the pressure from the Titans front. I wonder if we'll see some urgency here with a 2-minute warning from the Coventry offense and taking some more intermediate and deep shots with talented receivers like Schofield in motion to the top of your screen, like Aaron Jones. Number 85 there with the drop, Chris Harris. Pressure from James Williams and Jerome Darko. Brings up a 4th down in their own territory here, and it'd be very unwise for Coventry to try anything but a punt here. As you mentioned before, often getting 9 people trying to block this punt for the Titans, so we'll see if that little rollout punt is something that the Titans are able to combat. Getting closer every time. Punt falls right around the 35-yard line, and that is where Manchester will start after a very short drive from Coventry.
Interesting, the Titans very clearly with an overload left from their perspective there, trying to rush into that ball out right punt. Be interesting if Coventry do pick up on this and try and fake the ball to the left. Certainly that's what I'd be looking to do, with the Titans committing 6 guys to the left-hand side of the formation.
Yeah, you typically only need to spring 1 big block there, and you've got a big play if Ross Denton has got any wheels at all, as we've got 1st down for the Titans. 2-minute warning gone. Trips to the top of the screen. Single side receiver is Brad Temple. Takes incomplete. I thought that was going to be a fantastic interception for Dan Schofield. Flag in the backfield, typically in the area of holding, but Homer, you believe that that is going to be a chop block. Any explanation for what a chop block is?
Maybe I've signaled that to you wrong. I think that's a low hit to the QB in the throwing motion by number 8 from Coventry.
I see. Dan Shadipo hitting Charlie Martin below the waist, around the knee, which, when the quarterback is in the pocket, he has special protection rules, kind of like the punter and the holder on special teams, and that gives a 15-yard penalty to the Titans on that incomplete but very near interception by Dan Schofield. Martin needs to be aware of Schofield. He's a rangy safety. Schofield at the top of the screen. Martin steps up, tries to remain a passer. Very risky pass to Penfold, with Karush Faitmian in coverage there. Martin needs to look after the ball here. With 2 minutes to go, only a few yards gained would put Lenkowski in really good position for tacking on 3 points, getting some momentum to start the second half. Orbital motion from Penfold. Play action pass. Martin steps up. Panicked in the pocket. Had more time than he believed he did. If he just keeps his eyes downfield, takes that step up, he'll remove himself from the pressure and he'll have an opportunity at least to get the ball out. 3rd and long here at midfield. The objective for Martin here is going to be to survive this drive. Do not... We've got a timeout from Coventry, buying themselves some extra time. Martin needs to look after the ball here, make sure that he does not put Coventry in a better situation than they are currently. He's having a meeting, Martin's having a meeting with head coach George Foster and offensive coordinator Alex Challens here. They're going to discuss the plan with a 3rd and 14 to go here, out of field goal range, right around midfield. They'll be discussing whether they want to stay aggressive or whether they'd like to be conservative and sort of survive this drive.
Quite a strong wind blowing across it. If the Cameron Pans to Lankowski's kicking net, it is blowing quite heavily what will be behind the ball. I think if they can get the ball to the 35, that would be in range.
Yeah, strong leg, and Lankowski has the wind. So we'll see how they attack this 3rd down. Would not be surprised here to see a draw play, a quarterback draw play. This is right around that territory, long down, 3rd down. Motion from Greenhalgh to the top of the screen. Martin drops the pass, goes for a shot to Brad Temple, who's got speed to burn, and completes the pass. Number 22 in the University of Nottingham helmet. I don't have a number for him in coverage. Brad Temple, one of the quicker players we've had in the Titans setup over the past 7 or 8 years. Martin sees him in that one-on-one and decides to take a shot, perhaps a little bit inside, but Temple makes a good sliding catch, I suppose. Titans take a timeout to conserve some clock here.
Yeah, we don't have a name for number 22, unfortunately. We're probably a Nottingham Green player based on that play.
Fantastic setup at Nottingham Green. Feeds directly into Nottingham Gold. Jonathan Homer very proud of himself.
Lots of mentions of both the Schofields, and I think we mentioned the Titans under-19 program earlier. Something you've been a little closer to than I have, Sam, but certainly we spoke about Keith and his impact on the sport, and certainly with Chorley and the just farm of players that Chorley has produced over the years. I think Keith's impact in that has been monumental.
Yeah, not enough good words to say about Keith Schofield and about the Chorley, now Lancashire Buccaneers setup, but just, as you said, a farm, just producing quality players. As we've got 1st and 10 here, hands off to Bisiriu, and slowed down by Charles Nwofa. But the Lancashire Buccaneers, you know, just looking at the sideline alone of the Manchester Titans, you know, myself as a product of the Chorley Buccaneers many moons ago, Josh Mills, the backup quarterback, and Charlie Martin, the quarterback for the Titans, hits Greenhalgh on a slant and into the end zone for a touchdown. Titans grab that security right before the end of the 1st half. Gets 6 on the board to make it 16-0 with Lankowski in to add the extra point. And we've just got that same play again. It's a play action to the running back, and Martin is reading the inside linebacker. If the inside linebacker bites down, he's going to throw that slant because he knows he has space behind, and the slot receivers here have speed to burn. If the linebacker stays out, he'll hand the ball off comfortably. Lankowski adds on the extra point.
I mean, go back to your point earlier, we spoke about the decision made by Coach McMaster for Coventry. It's now a 3-score game. Had they taken the 3 points earlier, we'd still be talking about a 2-score game. I think that could come back to hurt them.
Yeah, really nice response there for Martin, who's fired up on the sideline after getting shook up by the hit on the field goal PAT earlier on in the game. Comes back, responds well with a touchdown, finds Greenhalgh after the deep pass, which didn't end up resulting in a gain. And you know, there's a lot about mentality here when a team scores right before the half. Momentum is palpable. You can feel momentum even if you can't measure it. So heading into the half, the Titans, as long as this very short period of time here goes well for them, will feel very pleased about being 17 points up, ready to start the second.
I believe Coventry get the ball at the start of the second half. So if you're head coach, offensive coordinator now, so you are a head coach, are you trying to get some points on the board here in the remaining minute?
I think what I would look to do is to see if I could accomplish one chunk play. I believe that Coventry have 2 timeouts left in this half, and I imagine there's less than 30 seconds left. But if you can get one chunk play with a kicker like Denton, ball goes straight through the uprights. No points there for Lenkowski, unfortunately. But if you can get one chunk play, as Hatfield here, you'd feel some level of confidence in perhaps getting another, and then putting Ross Denton in field goal range to get 3 points on the board before the half. And if you're able to score on that opening drive to begin the second half, you would reduce that deficit drastically from 16-0 to 10-0. So you've got to be aggressive here. This is a playoff game for Tamworth, for Coventry, and ultimately the loser has to travel down to the London, and they do take a knee here. We don't know how much time is left on the clock, so I understand the decision, but I'm looking at Coventry in this second half, and I am looking for them to get more aggressive offensively. They have a talented pool of receivers here with Schofield, with Aaron Jones, and even some players who I'm perhaps a little bit less familiar with, like Ludgate and Chris Harris. Hatfield has an impressive arm, and I'd be hoping that they would attack a bit more aggressively in the second half. Shortly, we are going to have a halftime interview with defensive coordinator for Coventry, Johnny Weeks. So I'll keep an eye out for when that's happening. We'll switch to that. But until then, let's digest that first half. So obviously we've got a 17-0 game to Manchester at the minute. Both offenses getting big chunk plays, but a bit more consistency from Manchester at the minute offensively. What do Coventry need to do in the second half, Homer, to get back into this game?
I don't think they've done anything consistently. You mentioned they have had some chunk plays, and when they have got created time in the pocket, where they've been able to, Hatfield's been able to find his receivers. When he made the very good pass over the middle, and they have been able to find players in the flats open. But they've and on occasion they have made chunk plays on the ground, but they've done neither consistently. I don't know if they need to pick one or the other and make that the focus of their offense, then maybe try and get some momentum and some consistency to move downfield. I think the difference has been, and you kind of made this at the start in terms of production, is that the Titans have had probably in all of those scoring drives at least one chunk for 20, 30-yard passing play. And that is fundamentally the difference, be it to the Enigmatics and Penfold, or to Greenhouse, or to Temple, where the Titans have been able to find those big yardage gains.
Yeah, and not to toot my own horn too much here, but if we take a look back at those keys to the game that I addressed at the start, Manchester's 3 keys to the game, from my perspective, was win the quarterback battle, win the turnover battle, and find a way to deal with some of these defensive stars that Coventry have. Well, Manchester have done all of those things. If we look at Coventry's keys to the game, win the quarterback battle, win the turnover battle, and win the field position battle, well, Hatfield hasn't really had a great deal of opportunity to push the ball down the field and has made things happen when he's had the chance. Winning the turnover battle, we've got 1 turnover. I think we're going to have I'll just quickly, we're going to move down for an interview with Manchester Titans head coach George Foster.
Probably better, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah? Are you holding? Okay. How do you think the first half has gone so far?
Very good. Yeah, it was a good first half. I spoke to the coaches just then, and I think that's probably some of the better football we've played. first half all season, which is really promising. Some things that we still need to clean up on every aspect, but generally, you know, offense was doing well. The pass game was back, run game was firing, which is great to see. We just need to carry that momentum into the second half. Defense was standout. You know, the Coventry offense struggled to move the ball at all. Again, a couple of assignment errors that we just need to get back into the changing room and just make sure that we've got ironed out. But yeah, pretty happy with the first half.
Other than momentum, what else do you need to improve on in the second half?
Discipline. It's always discipline. You know, not doing anything stupid. Kind of after the whistle. And just making sure that we're really executing our playbook, because when we execute our playbook, they're finding it really difficult to do anything against us. But when we're dropping gaps or we're dropping assignments in the coverage game, they're taking the advantage of those yards. And then offensively, we just Shadipo's a fantastic player off of the edge. We just need to make sure that we keep him in check. And then the secondary, we just need to make sure that we continue to kind of take what they give us, and continue to just play our standard of football.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you. Cool. Lovely. Thank you.
So, interview there from George Foster.
Yeah, I think we're just waiting for the Phoenix defensive coordinator, Johnny Weeks. And obviously, Coventry really needs to turn this game around, or Johnny's going to have some tough games in the upcoming weeks here against the London Warriors. Obviously, nobody wants to face them right now.
Yeah, the Warriors have... I think it's harsh to say, that they dropped off for a few years. That's not true at all. They were incredibly difficult opponents for us in the two national finals, but they have had somewhat of a resurgence. They've changed around their coaching staff over the past 2 years. They have an impressive number of talented athletes, offensively, defensively, special teams, and the depth is just phenomenal with the Warriors this year. You'd be hard pressed to, or it would be unwise to bet against them, even as they face off with the Bristol Aztecs today, who themselves are an incredibly talented and deep squad. And I think that we're ready to move over. We're going to have an interview with head coach and special teams coordinator of the Coventry Phoenix, Neil McMaster. So we'll switch over to that and hear what.
How do you think that first half went?
Not great. Honestly, we've got a lot of things we work on. Physicality, I think we need to up that. Just simplifying what we're trying to do on offence. We've saw so much on film that we want to attack, and we're just getting a bit lost in ourselves. So simplify it, a bit more physical, and I think we can do it in the second half.
Mm-hmm. What else do you think, other than simplifying it, you need to do in order to improve in the second half?
Make some plays. I don't think there's anything that we've done that has stopped us moving the ball. We've just not made the plays when they're there. We drop it on the third down conversion, and Manchester have made the big couple of plays when it's been very close to an interception and not. It's just coming up with the ball when we've got those opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You good?
Okay, so interview there with Neil McMaster, head coach of the Coventry Phoenix. And just before we sign off for half-time, I'll first and foremost ask those watching to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Manchester Titans. We are not too far away from 1,000 subscriptions to our YouTube channel, so just a quick subscription goes a long way, helps our reach, lets us know that you like our program, our product that we're putting out, and also helps our reach go a little bit further. I'll give you a message from one of our sponsors, which is Creating Food Meteorites Limited. Titans would like to give our thanks to the sponsor, Creating Food Meteorites. They're consultants to the food and drinks industry, stimulating innovative ideas, nurturing talent, and building innovation ecosystems. We thank you for your support. We will sign off and catch you very shortly for the second half of what's been an exciting but one-sided match so far. Welcome back. We've got the second half of our game, 17-0 to the Manchester Titans as they look to kick off second half. Lenkowski kicking off deep. High kick to number 4, I think, 14, who gets a nice lane. Avoids a few tackles. That's Nathan Lester, Birmingham Lions offensive coordinator.
Interesting, the Titans brought number 33, Sam Jones, across the formation, and it was clearly meant to be a kick to the right with coverage to the right. But the returner was able to work back to the middle, hence the big return.
Yeah, don't think that any of these kicks by Lenkowski are not by design. They're always pre-orchestrated and planned. Hatfield comes out to take the offense. Helm comes out with a pass. Swing pass out to... Swing pass out to Olapona. Tackled after a gain of about 6. And this is what we were hoping for, Homer. We were really hoping that Coventry were going to come out passing, let George Hatfield have a little bit more freedom with the offense, and ultimately put them in a position to hopefully win this game, because this is a playoff game.
Yeah, he did show good presence then. It was a good check down to the back. I think Magudu for the Titans, a little slow in getting out there, and able to pick up 5 yards on first down.
Hatfield to drop back to pass again. Hits his tight end, number 17, who I don't have a number for.
Great number, though, 17. What an incredible number.
Mid.
Huh.
And that's 2 plays for Hatfield, 2 passes, and 2 first downs.
Just thinking around the league here, I would like to say congratulations to the Merseyside Nighthawks for their promotion back to the Prem, but I wouldn't mean it, so I won't.
Move on. Schofield in motion. Mishandled counter there. QB and running back not on the same page. Charlie Dixon makes a big play in the backfield.
For fans of the Water Boy, they faked the fake there.
They thought about faking.
Yep. The evergreen Charlie Dixon, who must be comfortably 45 years old by now. Still looks great, though.
Doesn't look a day over 44.
Not at all.
Enormous arm length. Truly a vascular man. Madugu straight through. Doesn't manage to bring down Hatfield, but puts on the pressure for what looked like a design screen. But Hatfield had to get the ball out a little bit quicker due to that pressure from Madugu. Abdul Madugu needs to be careful there about making sure he doesn't go too low on Hatfield. Otherwise, they'll receive a similar penalty to the one from the first half where Daniel Shadipo took down Martin below the knee.
I think maybe Coventry are expecting blitz there, that quick running back leak play. Oluponu wasn't on the same page, unfortunately, but had he been looking around, they may have been able to pick up some easy yards there.
Hatfield scrambles. Taken down by Yigi Atur. That is, I have seen Hatfield deliver some hits. He is not a small man, Hatfield. However, one of the last men that I want to meet me in the open field would be Yigi Atur.
Yigi with ELF experience in the now defunct Turkish team. Works as a vet in his part-time. Maybe not what you might expect.
Not from a man who lifts and shifts the weights that he does. So, not quite the drive that Coventry were looking for, but should be encouraging that they can pass the ball. They need to get a little bit more time. Sending pressure again. Penfold needs to leave that ball there.
Yeah, I really don't like that again. I mean, interesting, the Titans overloaded from their right, the Coventry left, which if they're rolling out right, I would maybe expect that the punter has the ability to run it. And certainly with the ball in the Titans half, down by 17, they see the Titans rushing from the left. Had that been in the Homer Bloomfield era, Lankowski would have had license to tuck that ball and go for it. Well, there we go.
Homer Bloomfield era trademarked from this point onwards.
Well, let's discuss that a bit more in the next break of play, I think.
Martin takes the offense for the first drive of the second half. Play action, ball out to Manny Eze. This is a criticism I've had of Manny Eze in previous games. So we have a screen pass out to Eze. And what he tends to do is he will come back into the backfield by about 3 yards, which means when he catches the ball, he has to then gain 3 yards before he's back to the original line of scrimmage. He needs to stay closer and tighter to the line of scrimmage so that any yardage gained forwards is actually going to result in a net profit as opposed to just getting back to the original line of scrimmage like he has done there. Communication between Martin and Eze there. Shadipo off the edge, unblocked, and manages to make that tackle as you would expect him to, maybe 9 out of 10 times, really.
Yep.
And they need to make sure they've got an answer for him coming off that edge unblocked. Martin potentially could keep that ball.
Interesting what we spoke about earlier in the game about recognizing threats on the field. Obviously, with the Homer Bloomfield area, the screen game was a huge part of the Titans' offense. But I think throwing it to this side of the field where you've got both Shadipo, number 8 was off the line in the linebacker position there. Maybe wasn't so wise to throw the screen to this side.
And they will try and take advantage of that. Robin Paya in pursuit, and a big hit out of bounds there by number 53, Sam Ubani. I could be wrong here. It kind of looked like he was pushed into it.
Yeah, I can see the sideline just shaking his head. It's the white hat that's throwing the ball. For me, that's not a penalty. I hate those like that. The contact is minimal. I think in fairness, the QB's gone down a little easily there. Yes, there was contact. It's not a hit. It's not a hit as you would expect to see it. I think this will get picked up.
Referees having a discussion here. I think head ref, if I'm seeing correctly, is Ben Griffiths. No, it's not Ben Griffiths.
Mr. Hewitt, I think.
Having a discussion. George is pointing. George Foster, head coach.
Studies ground. He studies ground by the looks of it.
So it looks to me as though this penalty will stand as a late hit out of bounds. Shadipo applauding the late hit out of bounds.
That's a little soft, but, you know, I'm sure the Titans aren't going to decline it. Someone offers you a putt in golf, you take the putt.
More of a cricket man myself.
Cricket man. Do you walk if you nick it, or will you stand there and wait for the umpire?
Regardless, my shoes are off for Joe Root.
Fair enough. Let's go back to our early discussion. I think you mentioned the Warriors. I don't think the Warriors did dip. I think the Warriors have had a strong 10-year era of excellence. We'll come back to this after this play.
Shadipo off the edge again. This time picked up by... Interesting. And Daniel Shadipo is going to be flagged there. Watch the whole interaction. Alex Baldry, formerly of SGS Pride, formerly of Laney, of Last Chance U fame, in the backfield, picks up the blitz by Dan Shadipo. Dan Shadipo takes offense to the fact that he's met someone who could contend with him, because Shadipo is truly a physical, impressive physically, and has... I think I might end up having to eat my words here. It looks as though there could be penalties on both teams.
I think we may be getting the personal foul originally, then a bit too much after verbals from Baldry potentially.
And as we've seen a few times over the past 2 years, that is a little bit characteristic for Baldry. So what we might have here, folks, is a personal foul against Coventry's number 8, Dan Shadipo. And then unsportsmanlike conduct, a dead ball foul on number 87, Alex Baldry, after the play. And I think because one is a dead ball foul, Homer, they won't offset. I think that it will be a first down for Manchester.
And then we come back.
And then Manchester will be sent back. But I could be wrong.
Let's take this break and play to cement this era's conversation. I think British American football originally had the Coke and the Bud era. Then what you might describe as, the Rick Ayew London O's era.
London O's.
I think then you probably have, the Mark Moss London Blitz era. I think then you definitely have to talk about, the Tony Allen London Warriors era.
Absolutely.
Certainly, though, I think, 2020 to 2024 will be called the Homer Bloomfield era. I don't think there's anyone at all that can disagree with that. And,
of course, and if they do, we'll probably just not listen to them.
And if they do, it's probably somebody without access to a live stream. And 2025 onwards, what would you call that?
Well, 2020. Last year was the London Warriors retaking the crown.
Yep.
So, I think it is, as mentioned, personal foul against Coventry, number 8, Dan Shadipo, and then unsportsmanlike conduct from a Manchester Titans player, which gives us a first down. Tough to know about what this era is going to be. We're 1 year into, we're 2 years removed from the Bloomfield Homer era.
Unfortunately.
Or Homer Bloomfield era, depending on which one you want
We can go alphabetically.
Bissi with a nice game there. Titans haven't quite got Bissi going so much here. With more flags. This could be on either Manny Eze or Junior Shadipo. It looked like the shove came from Junior Shadipo, but it depends on what Eze did or said during that interaction. But no love lost between these teams. Junior Shadipo and Dan Shadipo, very aggressive players, and they're going to stay that way. That's how they've had their success, and they're going to rely heavily on that aggression. It's worked so well for formerly Tamworth and now Coventry for so many years. So,
yeah, again, not a flag that I think needs. I understand what the referees are doing. They're trying to get control of the game. They're trying to stamp out any bad blood, any afters. But that's two players fighting as you expect them to fight during a play. Yes, it's gone on fractionally too long. Nothing there is unnecessary. Could that have been dealt with the talking to? But again, the Titans are not going to.
Yeah, we see a bit
more.
Decline this. We see a bit more than that probably every play in the trenches.
Yes, very much so.
It was perhaps a bit too much. Coventry have called a timeout here. Defensive coordinator Johnny Weeks has come out to meet the players, and I can only imagine the conversation is likely about discipline. They're costing themselves here, and Johnny Weeks is going to make that very clear that we can't kill this game for ourselves in the third quarter.
From a coordinator's or a head coach, that's a good timeout to take. Just cool it down. If I was feeling a little mischievous, I would potentially call 2025 onwards the still not the Bristol Aztecs era.
God.
Shout out to all my friends at the Bristol Aztecs.
Yeah, Pete Jones done a fantastic job building that roster and creating a team that can, contend with and challenge the London Warriors. Really not a competitive division. It's usually been a 2 or a 3 horse race in the Premiership South, with the London Warriors historically not really struggling with anybody, but recently the Bristol Aztecs causing some disruption to their normal schedule, but it remains to be seen as to whether the Warriors will retain their crown again this year, in which case, perhaps Dynasty 2.0, kind of, as a Patriots fan myself, Tom Brady had 20 years of dominance and there's 2 different kind of Super Bowl runs in that, so could see something similar from the London Warriors this year.
And as a New York Giants fan, I'd really love to see the return of the Patriots Brady era, because that was the only time that we were good. Giants entering year 16 of our 3-year rebuild.
It's important to note that Eli Manning is not an NFL Hall of Famer.
I mean, that's, it's shake your head, don't you? It's hard to fathom.
Orbital from Conor Greenosh here. Counterplay. 2 players picking up Shodipo. Shodipo very unhappy about the blocking. Looked to me as a fantastic block from Baldry, but Shodipo and Baldry really going at it now, and it's really where my eyes are drawn every play. It's juicy, the kind of football you like to see.
And I like that from Mr. Shoot there, the white hat. You let the kids play.
Short game there for
Wonder who'll get into the Hall of Fame first, Eli Manning, Bloomfield, or Homer. Answer on the postcard. Put your comments in the stream.
And when you do comment, please subscribe.
Yes,
High snap, handled well by Martin. Bisiriyu gets
Great
the edge.
bounce.
Manages to find a seam and drive forward for what looks like just about a first down.
First time I've seen Bisiriyu in the flesh. He gets a lot of yards after contact. It's very impressive. Very good at that. Jump cut bounce to the outside. But certainly a lot of these runs, there's been hands on him in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage, and yet he still creates positive yardage.
Yeah, I've regularly, quietly said to myself, where was Bisiriyu last year when we needed a bit of a boost to our running game then? But
Can't go back.
See what Manchester do with this first down just outside the red zone. Hand the ball off to Dukesy. Falls forward for about a gain of 4.
Let's look ahead a bit then without being too presumptuous. Assuming that you are going to see Coventry, Manchester. Can the Blitz get ahead of the Aztecs today?
I believe it's not possible.
No.
The Aztecs play the London Warriors today. The game will be live streamed, I believe, a bit later on.
So, Aztecs Warriors, do any of Bristol, Manchester, or Coventry have the firepower to beat London?
It's an interesting conversation as Bisiriyu gets the edge. Good block there from Brad Temple. Manages to squeeze his way through for a first down, for a first and what should be first and goal. Wonder if Titans will come back. Keep an eye out for that play action and slant to the slot receivers, the 2 slot receivers, which are, as it stands, just Conor Greenosh, number 11. No slot receiver on the top of your screen, as they've got 2 in the backfield with Baldry and Bisiriyu. But with the success that they're having running the ball with Baldry in the backfield, why come away from the run?
It would be a Seattle Seahawks of a decision.
Fantastic play call by the Seattle Seahawks. Bisiriyu straight up the middle. Almost untouched. In for a touchdown. Great blocking from the Titans. Coventry looking very frustrated.
For me, this comes back to that decision to not kick the field goal. Coventry look deflated right now. It's now a 4-score game. 24. Oh, 16-24. 3-score game still, sorry. But they're still donutted. You know, they had the opportunity to get points on the board. And then I didn't like taking the knee at the end of the first half. I would have aired the ball out. And maybe that's what we're seeing now in what's a slightly deflated performance.
As a former Premiership head coach, Homer, with this extra point pending, and the playoffs approaching in 2 weeks, which Coventry know that they're in, they're secure, are you letting George Hatfield, the Coventry quarterback, are you pushing this game and saying, we want to try our best to secure home field for this game and make sure that the team that we're going to play next is the Bristol Aztecs at home? Or are you going to put in some of your depth players and make sure that you are healthy and in the best position possible to try and compete with the London Warriors in 2 weeks' time? What's your take on how Neil McMaster should be handling this?
For me, you always have to go with the game. As we're talking Giants-Patriots, let's talk about 2012, last game in the regular season, in the unbeaten season, when the Giants could very easily, knowing that they had a wild card game the week after, have rested all their starters and let the Patriots walk over them. They didn't. I think the game finished something like 35-31 or something to the Patriots. Fantastic game. And obviously the Giants came back and won the Super Bowl on the back of that. For me, you would have to go all out to win this game. I think we talk about culture. We talk about the strength of the Titans culture the last few years. It's always been about compete. It's about win everything, win every play, and always compete. And for those reasons, I would be trying to win this game.
Ball sails out of bounds, which will see a penalty flag here. Clear that Lenkowski was trying to put the ball in a position where the returner would struggle to get to it in time, and Manchester could have the opportunity to get the ball there. But just going back to what you said there, Homer, yeah, the culture of the Titans is very much to go down to the dying breath, and I don't doubt at all that Coventry will fight until the dying moments, whether it's their starters, whether it's depth players. But I'm just gonna,
Let me put it back on you. And I think if we think back to 2021, our first Britbowl run, the Titans had never had that home. 2022, sorry. We'd never had that home playoff semi-final as a club. We'd had semi-finals. We'd been down to London a couple of times. We'll watch this play, then we'll pick this up again.
Immediate shot to Aaron Jones. Matty Gaunt in coverage, and ball sails far too high for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, we put a lot of emphasis on the importance of having a home playoff semi-final. We pretty much built our season around that, which brought us back to the point we made earlier, which was we made our season around beating Coventry, then Tamworth Phoenix. When was the last time Tamworth had a home semi-final? 2017, maybe?
That will have been 2019. 2019, the year that we split with Coventry. But the final home game for Manchester of the regular season dropped a loss as they in and out of the hands of number 94, who is Taran Chatha, a former youth player for the Knicks, and very close to being picked off by Jack Mayfield.
Yeah, so for the new Coventry regime, for Neil, I think it's his second season now, surely you'd want that home semi-final, because if you're being realistic that the London Warriors are probably going to win the Britbowl again, then the best you can have is a home semi-final and to make the Britbowl, which is also actually at Coventry's home ground again. So why not go for that? I wouldn't understand anything otherwise.
Yeah, and it looks somewhat like Coventry are trying to, win this game, or trying to put themselves in a position to drive the ball, understanding that running the ball is with Olapona is going to burn clock. But unfortunately, a lot of the play calls so far are passes that are being caught at or behind the line of scrimmage, when really what we need to see is the ball being pushed downfield, and Hatfield's arm is impressive. We need to see him threatening this Manchester Titans defence and really putting these DBs for the Titans under some pressure, which they haven't really faced a great deal so far.
Very close.
Good kick from Denton there. Ball goes out of bounds at the Manchester 9-yard line. So in terms of field position, this is good for Coventry. If they can get a stop here in the third quarter, or what I imagine are the waning moments of the third quarter, they put themselves in a position to get the ball in decent field position. And then you have to assume that at 24-0, they're going to have to air the ball out. A good offensive scheme doesn't. You can have death by 1,000 cuts. That's not a problem. But when you fall behind, that tactic doesn't work as well. You need to have those intermediate and deep plays, and you need to connect on them, which Coventry haven't managed to do so far. Bissiriou straight through the middle, bursts through, tries to hurdle the unknown 22 for Coventry, might have got a bit shaken up on the play. Yep, done himself a mischief there. We've also got, I think, Owen Smith down with cramp. Great hole opened up by the left-hand side of that Manchester Titans offensive line. Andy Jones, Tom Worrell, possibly Scott Tomlinson in on the action. And Bissy Ryu just bursts straight through, untouched until he gets to the secondary, where Dan Schofield and number 22, his Nottingham teammate, make a tackle as Bissy Ryu tries to hurdle. Owen Smith limping off the field, but seems to have had a footy, a soccer-type revival all of a sudden. Oh, no, he's back to limping again.
Must have known the cameras were on him.
So a little bit of a shake-up on the offensive line. Josh Dowling comes in at left guard. Mikey Tomlinson bumps out to right tackle. Tom Worrell moves over to right guard.
Right, to push you for a favourite Dowling?
A favourite Dowling. I've worked significantly more with Josh Dowling. So I'd have to go with the guy who spent his career trying to protect me. Appreciate you, Josh.
Can't argue with that.
Two in the backfield. Jukesy lets go of the ball, and Coventry have recovered. We've seen earlier on in the season botched handoffs between Martin and Jukesy before. They tried a counter play.
Yeah, I think Martin turned to his left, was surprised to see Jukes go to his right, and they appear to be discussing that now.
So, life for Coventry. 24 points down, still in the third quarter.
Saw former Titans running back coach Toby Chesters in half-time, Britbowl winner. He'll be pulling his hair out watching that play.
What a fantastic coach. Toby Chester's recently taken on a role with,
I believe, 2 roles. I think he's taken over as head coach of Sheffield U19s, which I think is kind of a return to his footballing roots. And I believe he's also coaching running backs at Leeds Carnegie.
That is correct, yes. The new Beckett running backs coach under Mike Ripley. Hatfield trying to... Is it Hatfield?
So we spoke earlier about recognising threats and recognising the opportunities that the Titans had when Shadipa was off the field. Now, Coventry's offence here is a lot of short passes into the flats, but to exactly where Madugu and where Mayfield are, potentially the 2 standout players in this Titans defence.
We've already seen a successful pass from Hatfield where he pump faked, I think, an out to drag the safety down and then hit a slant behind it. But interestingly, Hatfield is out of the game, and if my roster here from Coventry is correct, this is Tom Clancy, who is supposed to be a wide receiver.
Incredible author.
And handoff to Olapona, who is 1 tackle away from getting into the end zone himself. Great gain there for Coventry to put them in first. I think they can... No, it's first down with no ability to gain another first down. So, first and 10 from Manchester's 10-yard line. A condensed field here. So, will they rely on the strong legs of Olapona? Or is Tom Clancy going to come in? A former SGS alumni and North Texas Mean Green wide receiver, hands off to Olapona again, got the edge, breaks a tackle, into the end zone for a touchdown. Late in the third quarter, Olapona puts the first points on the board for Coventry.
Well, Tom Clancy there generating the first rainbow, 6 points for Coventry. Literary reference there, not just a pretty face.
Yeah, and you could say there's an orange storm rising. Another very close red storm rising, Tom Clancy, 1986 with Larry Bond. So, first points on the board for Coventry. They're going for 2 here, it would look like, keeping their momentum after that turnover. Coming out quick here, Tom Clancy still at quarterback. Takes a shot to Aaron Jones, but the ball is for the Worms.
Understand why they've gone for 2 there, because 3-8 keeps it a 3-score game. Interesting. I mean, I know no one's asked me my keys to the game, but maybe that's because I was late. But I'll highlight them here on my screen so you know that I'm just not making it up. But certainly turnover creation and special teams play. I think all this came from that huge punt by Denton that pinned the Titans down, which ultimately brought the turnover in good field position for Coventry.
Yeah, and when you're pinned back as a quarterback and you're close to your own end zone, you do have an awareness of that. You have this kind of you're on high alert, and so that will make a difference to some of the quarterback's decision making, which Hatfield has faced all day. And on that last drive, Martin was close to his own end zone, and yeah, they had some nice gains, but unfortunately, just that botched handoff. And assuming that this kickoff goes out of the back of the end zone from Aaron Jones, interestingly not Ross Denton, I will read you.
Do you think potential onside here?
I think it wouldn't be unwise to go for an onside, or perhaps try and hit around the 30-yard line.
Oh, no, he's just well in
Aaron
it.
Jones out the back of the end zone. So, in that time, I'll tell you about one of our sponsors. We've partnered with Supreme Financial Solutions this year. Supreme offers advice on a range of products and services that can support you to reach your personal financial goals. Whether you're looking for a first home or the peace of mind to ensure you have the protection cover you need, Supreme can help. They'll work with you to find the best financial solutions suited to your needs and help put you in control of your financial plans. So, the mentality here is going to stay aggressive from Challenge. We've seen it plenty this year. This Titans offense is going to stay aggressive, and you would expect the Coventry defense is going to start taking a few more risks on these footballs. They're going to try and punch the ball out from Bissy Ryu, who takes the ball up the middle for a nice gain of 7 here. And they're going to try and get their hands on any of these passes that Martin throws. So Martin needs to be very careful, very considerate with where he's putting the football.
Interesting, then you mentioned the running battle between Dan Shadipo and Alex Borge. I think it was noticeable then that the run went through the B gap for the Titans, and Shadipo was perhaps too busy hand fighting with Baldry. Realistically, probably should have made the tackle had he shed the block earlier.
Bissy gets the edge, one-on-one with Dan Schofield. Schofield tackles him out of bounds. We got a late... Not that there's such thing as a late flag for all those who are unaware of how the rules work.
It's the same two. It's the same two.
But an interesting... So we've got another Baldry and Shadipo
I think this is
flag
going
here.
against Manchester.
Against Manchester,
But I've been wrong before.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So you're probably right, and about the Shadipo and Baldry battle continuing to go on. And it's interesting you should say that, because the Manchester culture with juice and noise and energy, the whole plan with that is to essentially get into the opposition's heads and cause them to lose focus and distraction, as we see the penalty against Dan Shadipo, number 8. I think his 3rd of the game, notably not unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. If he received 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, or anybody, that would be cause for an ejection.
You can see Johnny Weeks on the 10 with the sideline looking pretty frustrated, let's say, at this point. Windswept, his play call sheet flapping about, doing the YMCA there.
2 in the backfield still. Baldry once again picking up Shadipo. Nice battle going on there.
Just a good battle that time.
Interesting. Dan Shadipo is a much better player than what we're seeing here. Titans have done well to put Baldry on him because he'll match his physicality. But after every play, Shadipo is demonstrating remonstrating to the referees, asking for penalties. And I'm watching this battle back live, and I'm keeping a really keen eye on it. And I'm just not seeing anything from Baldry that's problematic. That it's just great block, great contact, great football. counter, fake counter. Charlie needs to throw this ball away, and he does.
Yeah, I think arguably Dan Stieper's been Coventry's best player on defence. And you're right, the personal battle he's brought himself into has taken away from his play defensively. And you're now seeing the Titans run the ball more effectively as a result.
Could be wrong here, but I don't believe that I'm seeing team captain Nelson Charles Nwofa on the field. I wonder if that is schematic or perhaps he's picked up a knock, but that would be a big loss. Ooh. Good break up by Dan Schofield there against Sam Penfold. Very risky pass from Martin there on a 3rd and 8, 7 or 8. Callan staying aggressive here.
100% the right thing to do. I think the worst thing the Titans could do here is to try and run the clock from this far out.
So you'd have to assume this is either going to be a pass play or perhaps a quarterback draw, which is something that Charlie Martin has had some success with this year. But I think you're likely to see the receivers going up the seams. We do. We have Connor Greenhalgh finds a lane on the outside, and that is a touchdown for Greenhalgh. Absolute dime from Martin. Found the blind spot of the cornerback, number 22. And as close to a back shoulder throw without it being a back shoulder throw as you can get.
As a defensive coach, very frustrating there. I think that the unnamed 22 was in great position, but then made the cardinal mistake of trying to look for the football instead of simply maintaining his leverage and playing the hands of the receiver, and that allowed Greenhalgh to get a yard of separation. I mean, Greenhalgh isn't going to beat him for a jump ball. That yard of separation allowed the touchdown.
And the PAT is successful, making it a 31-point game with 6 points on the board for Coventry. So quite a large deficit for Coventry, who've seemingly turned to a new quarterback in Tom Clancy, who was in on their last drive when they scored a touchdown, but most of that work done by GB running back Bami Olapona.
Interestingly, Hatfield is on the sideline still in his kits. This is very much tactical, I think. He's not picked up any knocks.
Yeah, I imagine that with everything on the line, offensive coordinator Luke Fern is perhaps just trying to generate some offense. My personal opinion, uneducated opinion, albeit, on the Coventry offense, is that Hatfield has the arm for deep and intermediate passing, and we haven't seen a great deal of that. As 14 tries to find a lane coming back across, as you said, Lenkowski's kicked that ball deep, high and right, and assuming that they have a middle return, number 14, Nathan Lester's tried to come all the way around, but that's given the Titans coverage unit time to get over to him and make a tackle around the 28-yard line.
Tackle there by number 15 for the Titans. I have down here as the venerable Ricky Delver.
Ricky Delver, number 15.
Maybe could play a bit of cornerback? Maybe?
Unbeknownst to me. We still have Clancy in at quarterback here. Let's see what kind of aggression. And they hand off to Olupona, who makes some nice yardage up the middle with a roster of Titans around him. Good yardage to gain on first down. Gives you a really manageable second down here. But we know from our time in the Bloomfield Homer era that second and short here, second and 4 or 5, we're really looking to take a shot here because you're in a manageable third down situation here. So why not take a shot to one of your quicker receivers, noticing that Jeffrey Ampong is on the field.
I'll be looking down to the near side of the field where you clearly have a one-on-one. They're not taking it.
Tackled after a few yards. Big hits going in from both teams. And first down has been signalled. Coventry managed to move the ball closer to the Titans half, and that is the fourth quarter. So, with a pretty significant deficit, got to imagine that we're going to see some urgency from Coventry here. And if we don't see some urgency, that would, I suppose, indicate their intentions to, I suppose, get out of this game alive. Maybe Homer, the removal of George Hatfield from quarterback is not to try and secure a win in this game, but perhaps is more to ensure that Hatfield is healthy and good to go against the London Warriors in a few weeks.
Potentially. I think what I would say, I think that the second Britbowl that we were in the Homer Bloomfield era was probably more indicative of the two teams. That, you know, you playing the London Warriors, what you got to think is we need to hold them. You're not going to shut them out. What are you holding them to? 21 on a good day, 28 if your defense plays very well. So then the question is, can your offense generate 4 or 5 scores against a formidable defense, which we were able to do, fortunately, twice. I think the defense and show have the ability, I'm not claiming that they can hold the London Warriors, but have the defense to perhaps keep the score manageable against the Warriors so that your offense has a chance.
Yeah, and, you know, with the Warriors, it's really a case of you pick your poison. You know, you're not likely to be able to stop the run and stop the pass. You know, you have the formidable running game with just a stable of monster backs for the Warriors, seemingly never-ending. But you also have the arm and the legs of D. Williams at quarterback, and a frankly very nice roster of wide receivers as well. Yeah. As Clancy hits Ampong on a nice slant or perhaps a snag, a little stop route there. Titans don't manage to bring him down initially. Ampong tries to shake free and is then brought down after a gain, bringing up 3rd and short.
Yeah, someone who has game planned against that London Warriors offense. I think whereas other teams, you may single out players to say, we may bring people into the box for this player or vice versa, take them out. To your point for London Warriors, it's almost not irrelevant, but there is such a depth of weapons, particularly at running back. You know, one just comes in after the other, and you kind of just, you have to plan for them all equally.
Delay of game here for Coventry, no doubt. Clancy trying to get the Titans' defensive line to jump offside, but unsuccessful, and ends up going over his allotted time on the play clock.
Yeah, I think
there's going to be marched back 5 yards.
He needs to be aware of the clear and present danger of the play clock there.
With our digital play clock on display for all to see on our 90-yard field.
On our 90-yard field, resplendent. I mean, I'm sure that Clancy's counting Mississippi in the huddle there.
Important to note that we don't have a digital game clock. However, the Titans' home field is now 90 yards. As we get a 3rd and long here. Clancy drops back to pass, takes a shot to Ampong, who drops a sure touchdown there. Jeffrey Ampong.
Number 42 for the Titans there. Robbie Green, a very lucky boy. He's being brought off the field. Is that Robbie Green? Is that Lewis Green potentially? I don't know. Tried to jump the pass. And the ball sailed over his head. I mean, that's a touchdown. You've got to take those.
Yeah, Coventry could have really put this game into a different situation with that score. Let's see on this 4th down how they attack the Titans' defense. Picked by Jack Mayfield, tackled by James Schofield.
More of an invitation than a pass there for the interception.
Yeah, and not a direct criticism of Clancy, but because you just saw him put in a very nice pass to Ampong that was dropped, but based on the play that I've seen so far from Clancy, I have to assume that head coach Neil McMaster and offense coordinator Luke Fern have put Clancy in an effort to preserve George Hatfield ready for that London Warriors game, and potentially in George Hatfield's first year in adult contact.
Josh Mills in at QB.
Josh Mills is in at QB. Shows his arm off immediately. And if the Coventry defenders had put a name on it, would have one of them, Schofield, or I think Nathan Willis, would have come down with that ball.
I'd be marking Nathan Willis for a pass break up there, I think.
Yeah. So George Hatfield potentially about to step into a trial by fire situation against the London Warriors in 2 weeks' time, assuming nothing crazy happens in this game now in the fourth quarter. And having played the Warriors 4 times, I can tell you that it will be...
Life comes at you fast.
Life does come at you fast, and you learn some lessons. Hand off to Nathan Dukes. Gains some good yardage up the middle. 2 hands on that football now. Won't want to have a repeat of that handoff, but Mills and Dukes had spent some time together last year in the Titans offense, so perhaps, who knows, perhaps have decent rhythm comparably with Martin and Dukes.
If you were creating a character on any of the football franchise games, would Nathan Dukes be the best name for a running back?
Dukes is certainly a name I would want if I was a running back. Yep. Dukesy. Interestingly, not his play style though. No. He might put in a Duke every now and again, but Dukesy certainly a power back. Gained some great yardage there, and the offensive line really opening up some nice holes. Owen Smith back in at that right tackle position. And we now see David Adebo, number 19, enter the field for the first time. And for those who watched the Titans play this year or in previous years, you'll know that David Adebo is a bit of a pocket rocket or muscle hamster, if you want. Incredible speed if he breaks out into the open field. But, as you just see there from Nathan Willis, if you manage to get your hands on Adebo, not the toughest to bring down. The challenge is getting your hands on him. Adebo makes some great yards there, about a 7-yard gain. Good vision from the back, and in comes Dukes again with Alex Baldry in the backfield. Interesting that Dan Shadipo also not on the field anymore, on the sideline with helmet in hand. I wonder if that is a choice made by Johnny Weeks, defensive coordinator, to either, similar with Hatfield, preserve him for the upcoming Warriors game, or, and I have to be frank here, address what I think is around 45 yards of penalty yardage that Shadipo has single-handedly picked up today.
I think both teams are rotating now in the main.
Yeah, at 31-6, I would.
Yeah, I mean, nothing more indicative of that than Tyler Brown in at receiver for the Manchester Titans.
One-on-one with Manny Aziz. Again, a mistimed or poorly orchestrated handoff there between Dukesy and the quarterback. Is it? Could this be Dukes? There seems to be the consistent theme here, or perhaps it's play calling.
I think Nathan Dukes has very much taken on the role that was previously held by Jonathan Pangago with that north-south, run the clock, pick up 3 yards, back.
Yeah, both do the job very well. We've got Manny Aziz in a one-on-one at the top of your screen here. Brad Temple in motion on an orbital. I'd be taking a shot to Manny Aziz here, but Titans clearly keen to run clock and allow Dukes to drive forward for a gain of about 4 or 5, bringing up a 3rd and short. And I think the most that we could expect to see from coordinator Alex Challens here is an RPO, a run pass option. I think that Challens will be keen to keep this ball on the ground, but keep your eyes on number 47, which I think is Ross Denton. He's that linebacker that the offense would look to take advantage of on a little pop pass to Brad Temple, number 1, over the middle. If he steps down to stop this run, which he did, sorry, my apologies, he dropped out to cover the pass. Josh Mills rode the handoff, saw the linebacker drop out and handed the ball off to Nathan Dukes. But we did see the RPO from Brad Temple there. First down, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the exact same play again. You want to keep your eyes on the white and red helmet here, number 24. If he drops down, and we see Dukesy bulldoze his way into the end zone over the Coventry safety for another score, which is going to take this game to 37-6, pending the extra point.
Bulldoze, the perfect adjective there, I think, to describe the running style.
Certainly a large-necked man, yes, you would assume, but not the famous
not the
John
famous
Pangago.
Flag neck.
But very nice running on that drive from Nathan Dukes to, well, make amends for the handoff situation. Unsuccessful PAT there.
I think since Josh Mills came in the game, Charlie Martin's been on the buttered popcorn. Certainly got some slippy fingers.
Mishandled the snap there. Alex Lenkowski, doesn't matter what score the game is, Alex Lenkowski will be very unhappy about that. He takes a lot of pride in special teams units. We'll see him go down for the kickoff now, and
I'm assuming this is going to boozle. You know, you can get buttered popcorn amongst other concessions at the Titans home game here at the National Speedway Stadium. Well, I will take this opportunity to shamelessly plug the upcoming regional series for U19 football. Kicked off last year, so you have Team Scotland and then the English teams, Team North, Team Midlands, Team South and SGS. Obviously, SGS roster is set, but if you're in Scotland, the North, the Middle, the South of England, please do sign up for your local regional U19 team.
Speaking of shameless plugs, assuming that Coventry are unable to come back from this deficit, which would probably be a wise assumption to make. The next game, playoff game, semi-final for the Manchester Titans, is going to be here at Bellevue Arena, Bellevue Stadium, on Saturday, the 23rd of August, a 3 p.m. kickoff versus the Bristol Aztecs. Now, the Manchester Titans have played the Bristol Aztecs in the previous 3 years, 2022, an incredibly close game. The Manchester Titans were very much in charge until the one and only Sam Bloomfield, as part of the Homer and Bloomfield era, threw 4 interceptions that day and gave the Bristol Aztecs a really nice chance of coming back into that game. But fortunately, thanks to the strong play from your Manchester Titans defence, kept us in that game to go on to the Britbowl final.
Would be fair to say you had already scored several touchdowns at that point. But anyway.
Following year, 2023, hosted the Bristol Aztecs again. Nice running and a fumble recovered by Olupona. Titans need to shore up on tackling there, but I was going to say you'd assume there's depth in the game. However, I can see what looks to me like mostly Titans starters there. Back to that second Bristol Aztecs semi-final in 2023. Not as much of a close game there. Never felt truly comfortable until the fourth quarter, but quite a comfortable win for the Manchester Titans in 2023. Put them in position for their second Britbowl as Charlie Dixon meets Olu Pono in the backfield for a big... I think they've said he got back to the line of scrimmage, maybe. And last year, the Manchester Titans hosted the Bristol Aztecs, which did not go so well for the Manchester Titans, falling short of their third Britbowl appearance, which set up the national final between the Bristol Aztecs and the London Warriors, which the London Warriors then went on to win. But you can head over to the Titans socials or the online store to grab your tickets early for what will certainly be a spectacle on the 23rd of August. Clancy with a dime out to Aaron Jones, who makes a nice catch for about a 10-yard gain. Give Coventry the first down here. Clancy, really nice pass out there. Perhaps too little, too late for the Coventry Phoenix.
So this result will, of course, clinch the Titans' fourth straight Premiership North title.
And I think, to quote yourself, I think the Titans' attitude this whole season has been somewhat of the downfall of the regression of the Manchester Titans is vastly overstated. They'll feel very pleased that they've managed to overcome that first game loss and put plenty of points on the board whilst holding the Phoenix to just one score. Pump fake, flag down, Aaron Jones down the sideline.
I think we've got a legal forward motion here on the far side.
Yes, I think that number 84, Max Ludgate, was going forward at the snap. But I have to point out again, Clancy, a nice pass.
Yep.
Josh Balela, perhaps not in the perfect position to make a play here. I believe, from what I saw, that pass was a drop more than... There might have been pressure from the DBs, but a drop from Aaron Jones, which would be a second potential huge gain or a touchdown that the Coventry Phoenix have not capitalised on.
If you check Josh's Instagram later, I'm sure that he will correct the record that that receiver was fully covered. And that is great DB play.
I will make sure to mute his stories and ignore any criticism he has of my... That, to me, looked a little bit like a second. Nice play. Who is that? 42. I think that's Robbie Green.
Redemption.
Robbie Green, after almost being caught with his pants around his ankles.
Yep.
On the pass to Jeffrey Ampong, comes up and makes a nice play there from his safety spot.
I think, just going back to your earlier point, though, I think there's been a lot of change at the Titans from the end of the Homer Bloomfield area to this year. You've basically got a full new head coach, new coordinators, vastly changed personnel on offense and defense. So to come back and win the Premier North title, I think is a huge achievement. I think it has been overstated that the Titans would regress. And you've already mentioned that the Titans has, strong U16, U19 feeder program and the ability to recruit. So shouldn't have been too much of a surprise. Good people in the club, good culture that persists, and we see that.
Yeah, and similarly with Coventry Phoenix, they had the blip last year where Newcastle took over, and frankly, the quarterback that Newcastle had last year, Michael, forgive my pronunciation, Rouge, was incredibly impressive, and I'm not surprised that Newcastle managed to do what they did. But the feeder program that Coventry have with their U16 and U19s, equally, very impressive programs that you would hope will continue to feed this Coventry Phoenix program for years to come as well, as we have a false start from either, well, perhaps both, Jeffrey Ampong and I don't have the name for number 17, the tight end for Coventry.
Probably have to take that number off now, actually. That's awful. I do think Neil Mass deserves a lot of credit because, you had Martin Hilton and then you had Jason Scott, of course. Very, very strong Coventry Phoenix program for many years. Similarly to the home of Bloomfield, they were a very tough act to follow. And I think that, Coach Master and his staff do deserve credit because they've maintained high standards and they've kept Tamworth competitive in the Premiership North.
I think that people will be sick of us glazing each other.
Well, I think what did they expect?
I think one of the things that I have enjoyed most about, I suppose, spectating from a distance this year is just how competitive the Northern Premiership has become again. I appreciate that. Nottingham and Newcastle haven't notched up many wins, but if you look at the East Kilbride Pirates, this is a team who on any day can really present with some problems, and obviously Coventry won the first game against Manchester earlier on this year. So I think I would hope that it spells well for the future of the Premiership in the North, because we have for the past few years, 2021 until 2024, Titans didn't particularly have a great deal of competition. We always had those battles with then Tamworth, now Coventry, but even some of those scorelines weren't that tight towards the end. So, whilst we might have our personal preferences about these teams and who we want to see succeed, I think just in terms of parity and in terms of creating a product that investors can look at, that spectators and neutrals can enjoy, it's been really enjoyable to watch the Premiership North this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Fancy rolls out to his left, tries to stay alive, he's beyond the line of scrimmage.
Yep. That's coming back, unfortunately.
That pass will come back. I could be wrong here, but I believe that that illegal forward pass will be a loss of down. Let's see if head official David Hewitt. Yep. Let's see if he gets the signal for illegal forward pass, which I believe is his palm placed on the flat of his lower back, or the back of his hand placed on the flat of his lower back. This is enthralling stuff, of course.
Yep.
But let's no pressure, no diamonds, David. Oh, lovely, BAFA, fantastic.
Just going back to the
Loss
Titans.
of down, hands behind head. Carry on, Homer.
So the Titans field, and you mentioned BAFA, I think the Titans field does look resplendent. 90 of the best yards. People will maybe ask, could we have made it 90 yards earlier? We'll never know. Certainly the John Savin Award must be in contention here. Beautifully painted, perfectly marked out, 90 yards with posts in a stadium. And it's on a postcard as to who wins this year. No doubt someone in a field somewhere. Looks
like a lovely game day setup. And with regards to the former criticisms about the Manchester Titans shorter field, other offenses played on the same distance.
They did.
As Adebo breaks a few tackles, goes straight through the middle and picks up 10 yards.
Which in David Adebo yards is 20. A few shout-outs. I can see some comments on the stream. Shout out to my GB Under-19 coaching colleague, Jam, who is also up at East Kilbride. And to everyone's friend, Henry Borges Baptiste of Newcastle, and GB U19s as well.
Sam Jones on the carry there, getting his first carry of the day. A complete rookie to the sport, so good to see him getting some time and some game day experience.
Interesting with the Titans being sponsored by the Pitman Flannel Company. I can also see country music influencer Jack Watson commenting on the stream. I'm sure Jack has availed himself in some of those country and western style flannel shirts.
He typically would wear a cowboy hat to these games now.
I'm sure he will text me his thoughts on that very soon.
As long as he's happy in his retirement, that's what we can all be happy about. Josh Mills on 2nd and 11 here. A little counter play to Debo, who once again gets the edge, but that man again, Nathan Willis, comes down and makes a solid tackle. Love cornerbacks who can tackle. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If your cornerback coach or your DB coach picks up the football bag more often than they pick up the pads, the contact and the tackler bag, you need to have a conversation. Top cornerbacks in our league, or in any league, strong tacklers.
Yep. Certainly the mainstay, I mentioned before, the mainstay of some of the Titans. Oh, dear.
Mishandled, snap there by Mills.
Yeah, but some of the Titans' successes on defense over the years has been on the back of a very, very strong 5 DB group. Sam Fossey. Shall I say DK or shall I say?
You can list multiple, as we. I would say that in your time as head coach, there was lots of rotation. I'd say.
I was just debating whether it's a full name DK. I'm not going to.
Don't do it.
But certainly DK, Ricky Delver, Sam Fossey, Alex Eager, Sam Pearson. To name a few, we had Alex Cooper in that secondary. I'm going to miss guys out, but there was just a depth of talent. But what was certainly consistent, Manny Zara, these guys, is their ability to tackle on the outside, provide secondary run force, secondary alley support. Crucial to the defense.
Absolutely. Tom Clancy takes first down here after the recovery from Joe Jones. Gets the ball out to Olapona, who makes a lovely move to break a tackle there. Gains a first down for Coventry. Have to imagine that this is the dying moments of the 4th quarter, and we'll get the 2-minute warning any minute now. Joe Jones, the man who recovered that fumble for Coventry, Loughborough University captain. I think he recently graduated this year and part of the GB programme.
Interesting wrinkle here. The playoff game is on Saturday the 23rd. There is GB under-19 practice, ironically, in Bristol that day. And, there are several members of the Bristol Aztecs on that coaching staff, so I'm sure their loyalties will lie to the GB under-19. As we have upcoming games away in Hungary and Germany, please, if you do see Just Giving links to support the GB under-19s, please donate, because there isn't an abundance of funding coming from elsewhere. But certainly I expect people like T to, just come and coach the U19s.
There's going to be some complaints from Theo Hutchinson-Hayes and the Coventry sideline here about that. However, from the officials' perspective, forward momentum had been lost. He was in a grip by the Titans' defensive player, and if he'd have been continued to drive back and driven into the ground, there would have been complaints about that too. So the officials made the right call there. It's just a shame that he broke it so soon after that whistle was made.
I think credit to Hutchinson-Hayes there for continuing to run. Reminds me of Eli Manning in the helmet catch play to David Tyree. I'm sure you remember that play.
I would encourage all the viewers here to go back and watch that play and watch the 3 different offensive linemen holding the Patriots defensive lineman on that penalty. On that play, and watch David Tyree's catch, which is a fantastic catch, of course, against Rodney Harrison, famous for his pass coverage skills. I'd encourage you to go back and watch that play and see that one of the greatest catches of all time should never have happened. Just an unbiased opinion there. Yep.
Is your favourite Tom Clancy book Patriot Games?
I refuse to read Tom Clancy after I butchered the fact that the quarterback here, Tom Clancy, attended North Texas Mean Green. Clancy dancing around, showing that North Texas skill. Continues to break tackles.
I mean, Calvin Wong falling for the classic Sam Bloomfield after the line of scrimmage pump fake there. I'm sure he'll enjoy watching this back on film with the sound on.
Defensive coordinator James Dean having a quick chat with Calvin there. 4th down and about 5 yards to go for Coventry. We've already had the 2-minute warning, so I can't imagine any teams are going to take a timeout here. I'd say that there's probably 1 or 2 more plays left in this game. Flag down. Nice break up by Jack Mayfield, coming back to the centre of the field.
Yeah. Interesting, mentioned Titans defensive coordinator James Dean. Rookie year as DC, clearly dropping these linebackers out. The Titans losing their pocket containment. Well, it may be to be expected as all the apex safeties and linebackers now dropping back into coverage.
Luke Fern, offensive coordinator for Coventry, having a word with Tom Clancy. See what they dial up here. Offside penalty resulted in a 1st down for Coventry here. Pistol formation with the running back set directly behind the quarterback. Drops back to pass, fires a shot deep, lovely ball. Once again dropped by Jeffrey Ampong.
Once again, check Joss's Instagram later for him to inform you that was tipped. I mean, really, it was dropped by 2 people. I think it went through the hands of Belle and was then dropped.
Yeah, that is, I suppose, why DBs play DB and don't play wide receiver. Jerome Darko in that safety spot over that side of the field. Clearly they like Ampong on these deep shots. He's got the speed for it. Tamworth Coventry try and get on the board late here. Steps up, fires deep. Josh Belayla showing his deep... interfered with. Number 17, very pleased with that flag.
Interesting to see which way this goes. Potentially PI both ways here.
I believe that they are going to call Jerome Darko for pass interference. Josh Belayla had a free run at the ball, but Jerome Darko seemingly contacting number 17. Again, don't have a name for 17 down the field. So, not a spot foul. 15-yard penalty. Gives Coventry a 1st down. And it would sting here for Manchester to concede this late in the game. But with the passionate rivalry between these 2 teams, you know that Neil McMaster and offensive coordinator Luke Fern are going to be very keen to try and get on the board to give themselves some confidence heading into the London Warriors game in 2 weeks' time. Great penetration by Espina. Gets the sack and honours Shark Alfred Mazengo once again with the Shark celebration. We miss you all here terribly, Shark.
Yeah, I think Clancy guilty there of staring his receiver down a little. 84, I think, who released out the backfield. 84, potentially 14, released out the backfield, was open in the flats on the left almost immediately. Getting a little too attracted to that one receiver, I think.
Brings up a very, very long second down. I thought we'd had the 2-minute warning, Homer, but perhaps I was mistaken. There'll be very, very little time left in this game, you would assume now.
Potentially, BAFA being paid by the hour today. Really, really dragging this one out. What have you been doing with all your free time, Sam, away from American football?
It was nice to, after the season ended, focus on GB, and had a good few practices with GB before, unfortunately, our opponents pulled out this year, multiple opponents. And since then, I suppose I've been taking a bit better care of my health. Nice completion there to Jeffrey Ampong. I've been in the gym, Homer, just like you.
Yeah, we are both looking fantastic, I must say. Resplendent.
The self-glazing didn't stop.
No, it did not. If anybody tuned in expecting anything else, then actually that's on you more than it is us.
So, 3rd and 11 here for Coventry. You'd expect them to go for this on both downs. Just get a few more plays run, practice those things in your playbook. It looks like David Hewitt, referee, is perhaps signalling that there's around 40 seconds or 45 seconds left. Clancy drops back, stares his receiver down again, has plenty of space, plenty of time, needs to make sure he's behind the line of scrimmage, and runs forward, falls over, fumbles the ball out of bounds. Not exactly what Coventry were hoping for there.
And the challenge for Coventry right now is that the Titans have rotated defensive line. Unfortunately, there isn't much drop-off in that unit. And that's game.
That is the game. The Manchester Titans retain their Premiership North title and will host the Bristol Aztecs in the semi-final on Saturday, the 23rd of August, 3 p.m. here at Bellevue. If you want tickets for that game, you can head over to our socials or go onto the online store. Coventry will head down to...
So what did you think about that win?
It's a good win. It's a really important win for us as a team, as a group. We've come together and we've really shown our development through the year. It was a tough first game against Coventry, and we came away with a really unfortunate and disappointing loss. The performance today, really happy with it. Couple of things in that last quarter that I'm a bit pissed off about, the stuff that we need to clean up going into Bristol. But fundamentally we've earned the right to get another game at Bellevue in front of our fantastic fans. Super excited by that prospect in a couple of weeks.
And considering last year the Titans lost against Bristol, tell me about what this match means to you guys in the next match.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Last year was tough pill for us to swallow. We've gone away basically a new team. Obviously I've taken over. So it's a great opportunity for us to kind of, really, show what we're about in one of the biggest stages that we can, which is great. North title 4 in a row is massive. Bristol here is something that, that's why we play the sport, right? Is to get opportunities like that.
Congratulations on.
So, pretty emphatic win for Manchester here, 37-6. Took a little bit of time to get going, but once they opened the tap, Manchester pretty comfortably held on to the lead and put points on the board. So, Coventry are going to head down to visit the London Warriors, the current national champions, on likely Sunday, the 24th of August, whilst Manchester are going to host the Bristol Aztecs on Saturday the 23rd. Homer, we've experienced previous Bristol Aztec teams. Talk to me about the next 2 weeks. Not the game, but talk to me about the next 2 weeks for the Manchester Titans, knowing what's been done in the past and knowing what George Foster is likely going to want to, how he's going to want to handle these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it has kind of become a bit of a modern day rivalry against ourselves in Bristol. I always felt that the loss last year had many contributing factors to it. One being that it was in the same way that it was very much our time, 22-23. It was their time last year. Obviously, they didn't go on to win the Britbowl. I think it's slightly different this year. You kind of have to reset for the Titans. So I think that this Titans team can probably channel the approach that we took to it in our first approach to our home semi-final. That this isn't a hurdle to overcome, and it's a huge opportunity for the new team. A lot of this roster have never been to a Britbowl, never played in a semi-final. So imagine they'll approach it like that. It's new for a lot of them. It's exciting, and it creates the opportunity to go to another Britbowl, which would be the third in 4 years.
Yeah, and I think that they, much like that 2022 year where Manchester had... Well, we're going to head over to an interview.
I won't say that. I don't like shit. I'm not plugged in. Today's better. I think today's one of those days. They better than us in every phase of the game. They're outplayed, outcoached. So yeah, fair play to Manchester. They've done a good job.
And what do you think you need to do to improve the team?
Me and the coaches are going to sit down this week and try and figure it out. We'll watch a film, talk about it analytically, just see what we can do. There's a lot of emotions right now. So now's not the time to talk about it. We'll figure it out this week. Go and try our best ending.
Perfect, thank you.
Wise words there from Neil McMaster.
Yeah, so the next 2 weeks for Manchester, they'll probably ramp up their practices, have a couple more, they'll host a few more classrooms, and if Luke Carlton's scout spreadsheets are still in circulation, they'll likely do as much scout on the Bristol Aztecs as possible, get to know their players, get to know their schemes, come up with a game plan as early as possible. And it'll be business. It's all business when it comes to playoffs. In fact, in 2023, I remember your mentality around the playoffs, around the regular season, Homer, was that the regular season was the preseason. And what we were playing for was not to be the best team that we could be by the time we got to week 5 or week 6 of the regular season, but to be the best possible team that we could be by the time we got to the semi-finals, which the Manchester Titans are now ready to face on the 23rd of August.
Yeah, I think if the Titans want to realistically win the Britbowl, I think what they need to do is look at the result of the Aztecs against the Warriors from game 1 and look at the result of the game that's later on today, and then aim to match the Warriors' result against the Aztecs. I think if they do that, they can then approach a potential final with a little bit of confidence and belief.
Yeah, and I suppose what we're looking at for the next game is how are Manchester going to contend with the pure skill? Plenty of American talent, plenty of talent who've been part of those UWE University Championship teams, and have trained with and played with SGS Pride, fantastic programs. It's going to be a case of X's and O's, perhaps versus Jimmy's and Joe's. And, Bristol have great scheme, great coaches, great players. Manchester have, a similar repertoire. And we're really looking at a nice matchup. And you never really know how the North compares to the South and vice versa until until you get into those matchups. You know, you never know if it's going to be a shootout or whether the teams are more closely matched than you expect. But one thing is for sure, that every game Manchester have had against Bristol so far has had plenty of fireworks, plenty of big plays, lots of action, and the crowd that's been here at Bellevue every game has always been large in number and large in energy. So we would love you to come down on the 23rd of August, support the Manchester Titans, and just spectate what should be a fantastic game.
I agree. I mean, if you haven't experienced British American football live, I strongly urge you to come down and support the game in very much at the grassroots level. Although we're in the Premier League, this is still grassroots American football. You know, I think we've had an excess of 1,000 people at the last 3 semi-finals. So it'd be great to see that number again here at Bellevue.
So from Jonathan Homer and from me, thank you very much for joining in. We'd like to offer you once again to subscribe to the Titans social media channels, and in particular our YouTube channel. And we'll see you on the 23rd of August for the semi-final against the Bristol Aztecs.